Chapter 330. Yang Chung walked into the house. He wasn't in a hurry to deal with Hanya, who didn't dare to move. Instead, he bent down and picked up the Muramasa, playing with it with some interest. This blade was once something he yearned for when he was young. After all, he was born in an assassin's nest. A divine weapon in the hands of an assassin would naturally be something highly respected. However, now that this bloodthirsty and ancient blade was in his hands, Yang Chung didn't have much desire to possess it. Once an idol, once a dream, now one had become a ghost under his feet and the other a toy in his hands. Who said that life wasn't a joke? After looking at it for a while, other than the fact that the blade itself was tough enough to cut through gold and jade, it could only be said that its design was unique. As for the surging murderous aura, Yang Chung didn't think that anyone would be able to use it. This blade was actually made extremely well. The curses and the like were all deified by it. The true power still depended on the user. With a casual toss, Yang Chung threw the Muramasa in front of Hanya. Hanya, who was kneeling on the ground, saw that Yang Chung had thrown the blade in front of her. She didn't look surprised. She took the demon blade in her hand and placed it on her neck. "Thank you, Your Majesty Pluto, for allowing me to commit suicide." After Hanya finished speaking, she made a gesture of cutting her neck. Yang Chung was wondering what this woman was going to do with it. She actually wanted to commit suicide. While he didn't know whether to laugh or cry, a finger force shot out and knocked the blade in Hanya's hand onto the ground. "I didn't let you die. Why do you want to commit suicide?" Yang Chung laughed. Hanya was stunned. She raised her head. Her slightly dim face was filled with confusion. "Then, keep it. It's useful to me." Yang Chung looked at Hanya from head to toe. He seemed to have found a good prey. Hanya saw that Yang Chung was looking at her and thought of something else. Her face turned slightly red, but she didn't hesitate. She shyly untied her belt. This time, Yang Chung was stunned once again. After Hanya tied the belt, her dark purple ninja clothes were loosened. Hanya's fair chest was exposed to the air, and her pair of ample breasts were bound by a piece of cloth. But even so, one could still feel the scale of its prosperity. There was also a beautiful purple rose tattooed on Hanya's left collarbone. Against her delicate skin, it was like a bud that was about to bloom, very lifelike. After taking off her clothes, leaving only the cloth wrapped around her chest, Hanya raised her head. Her fine black hair fell to the ground. Her eyebrows were like peach willows, and her eyes were like almonds. Her watery eyes were full of charm. "What do you want?" Yang Chung groaned in his heart. "Your Majesty Nether King, no matter what you want to do, I am willing to accept your grace." Hanya clearly thought that after the battle, Yang Chung wanted to find a woman to vent his frustrations on or directly use her as a spoil of war. This was also the usual way of thinking of Japanese women like her. Experts could burn, kill, and pillage, so it was normal for women to be a spoil of war. Hanya was raised by Noriko Okawa since she was young. She was already beautiful at a young age, so Noriko Okawa treated Hanya as his adopted daughter and his own plaything. Although Okawa was dead, Hanya's servile nature didn't change. She didn't think that it was inappropriate to submit to a strong person like Yang Chung. Instead, she was nervous and shy. Yang Chung swallowed his saliva and coughed twice. He turned around and said, "Do you think I'm your brainless adopted father? I'm not interested in your body. I'm keeping you here because I want to ask you if you can control the entire Yamada sect if I give you the Devil's Blade." Hanya couldn't help but let out an ah and realized that she had lost her composure. She quickly said, "I'm sorry, Your Majesty Nether King. I thought you wanted that. I didn't mean it that way." Yang Chung smiled bitterly. This woman seemed to have been trained to the bone by Noriko Okawa to have a dependent nature. She killed Okawa merely because of the flames of revenge. If she were to meet an expert who could subdue her, this woman would easily become that person's slave. "Your Majesty Nether King, even without the Devil's Blade, it wouldn't be difficult for you to obtain Yamada sect." Hanya finally understood that Yang Chung was actually interested in Yamada sect, a huge ninja organization in Japan. She replied, "Now that Okawa is dead, I'm the strongest person in Yamada sect. Ninjas are extremely loyal. As long as I spread the news of Okawa's death, the position of Yamada's sect's leader will naturally fall into my hands. It's actually that simple. Yang Chung didn't expect it to be so easy to take over Yamada's sect. He wanted the power of Yamada's sect, mainly because he was worried that if Yamada's sect fell into the hands of others in the future, such as being controlled by other countries, it would cause inconvenience to his life in Huaxia. Instead of that, he might as well think of a way to destroy or occupy it now. After all, if he had Yamada's sect in his hands, he would be able to do as he pleased in Japan. Many things would be much simpler. At the very least, Yamada's sect would be a great help when he went to cause trouble for the Liu family next week. Yang Chung said, "If that's the case, I'll spare your life and hand the Devil's Blade Muramasa over to you. You'll replace Noriko Okawa to manage Yamada's sect in the future. I don't need you to be loyal to me. I just need you not to be silly when I need you. Of course, if someone tries to chase you away and take Yamada's sect away, I'll help you." Hanya felt like she was dreaming. Not only did she not have to die, but she could also become the leader of Yamada's sect for free. More importantly, from Yang Cheng's words, it seemed like he wanted to help her stabilize her strength. "Your Majesty Pluto, then what should I do now?" Hanya asked confusedly. Yang Cheng curled his lips. "Put on your clothes first." Only then did Hanya realize that she was still in a coquettish position. She immediately put on her clothes again and shrunk there. Yang Chun actually felt slightly regretful in his heart. Speaking of which, he really hadn't played with this female ninja before. It was a pity that he made himself sound too righteous earlier. If he were to go and enjoy it now, it would seem that he was too thick-skinned. He could only give up for now. With a clear voice, he said, "This place has already been sealed off, so I believe you should know how to deal with the aftermath. My clothes are dirty. Help me find a set of similar clothes immediately." Hanya had already calmed down. She listened to Yang Cheng's order and immediately left the courtyard. After a few minutes, Hanya came back with a new set of clothes. She wanted to help Yang Cheng change his clothes, but she was afraid that Yang Cheng would blame her again. She could only put the clothes in Yang Cheng's hands and retreated to the side. Yang Cheng changed into new clothes and said to Hanya, "The tour guide Kawanako that nine-tailed Arctic fox transformed into. Can you replicate it?" Hanya nodded. "Although I can't imitate her as vividly as nine-tailed Arctic fox, I can roughly imitate her." Yang Cheng remembered that Hanya had once disguised herself as Emochini. That was why he mentioned this. After all, Kawanako was already dead. There had to be a reason to suddenly change the tour guide. It was most suitable for Hanya to disguise herself, as he could tell the real from the fake, but those women couldn't. After that, he instructed Hanya on some matters to deal with. Looking at the time, it had already been more than an hour. The women who were drinking tea in the tea house in Nijo Town must have been waiting anxiously. Thus, he asked Hanya to disguise herself as the new version of Kawanako and return to the tourist team. They would talk about other matters after that. Luckily, taking over the Yamada sect's work was very simple and straightforward. A few important organization leaders saw that the Demon Blade Village was in Hanya's hands and quickly surrendered. Therefore, it didn't take much time. They just blocked the area where the fight took place and dealt with it secretly. Yang Cheng and Hanya, who was disguised as Kawanako, returned to the teams separately. Naturally, they couldn't avoid being questioned, especially when Yang Cheng actually changed his clothes. This made a few women very dissatisfied. They said that Yang Cheng went shopping behind their backs, and that it was too unkind. Lu Mingyu was more meticulous. She could tell that Yang Cheng didn't just go shopping. Therefore, she asked, "Are you okay?" Of course, Yang Cheng wouldn't tell the truth. It wasn't that he was afraid that Lu Mingyu would tell others. It was just that it was a matter of two different worlds. There was no need for her to worry. "Do I look like I'm not okay? It's just that my clothes got wet, so I changed into a new one," Yang Cheng said. "Who asked you to run around? Did you get wet?" Lu Mingyu rolled her eyes at Yang Cheng. She didn't ask further. She probably knew that Yang Cheng didn't want to say more. Hanya, who was disguised as Kawanako, was less talkative, but at least it didn't make people feel strange. After all, she was a Japanese woman and had received professional training. It was not a problem for her to be an ordinary tour guide. Seeing that it was already evening, the group didn't plan to stay in the scenic area any longer. They returned to the minibus one after another. However, as soon as Yang Chung sat on the seat, he frowned. He felt a stabbing pain in his heart and internal organs. Moreover, his head was a little dizzy. Noticing the abnormality, Yang Chung looked into his body and his heart sank. He originally thought that since he had reached the rebirth state, the radioactive substances that could suppress him previously wouldn't work anymore. He didn't expect that after he suppressed the substances, they didn't dissipate completely. They were still entrenched in his body like a malignant tumor. The only difference was that the drug's effect had weakened a little. Just now, he had been operating his internal force, so the drug's effect wasn't obvious. However, now that he had entered a relaxed state, the disease that hadn't been removed appeared again. Yang Chung knew that it wasn't a small problem. After all, even though his internal force had reached the great completion, he still couldn't get rid of the drug in his body. It was obvious that it was difficult to deal with. That damn Noriko Okawa, the drug that he gave me really restrained me. Yang Chung pondered for a moment. He was considering if he should get Jane, the medicine expert, to take a look at him. After all, it was more convenient to leave scientific things to the scientists. He could use his internal force to expel the toxins, but it might not be possible to expel the radioactive elements. As he thought of this, Yang Chung switched on his phone. Although he couldn't make phone calls, he could send an email through the internet. The Japanese would let him send it. Chapter 331. The remaining few days of the trip were peaceful. Hanya, who was disguised as Kawanako, followed the itinerary and acted like a tour guide for 5 days. However, during the trip, Lu Mingyu felt that Yang Chung had changed a little. She couldn't pinpoint the specifics, but she felt that Yang Cheng's temperament was a lot more mature than before. Could it be that she could see through him more clearly after spending more time together? Just as Yang Chung said that day, they still had a lot of time to understand each other. Their relationship would definitely deepen as they got to know each other better. This made Lu Mingyu feel more confident. However, what surprised her the most was that Yang Chung didn't request to do that kind of thing at night in the next few days. It wasn't that she felt that it wasn't good. After all, there were so many people around. It would be a headache if they were exposed. However, she still felt a little regretful. She didn't blame Yang Chung for giving her the cold shoulder. Yang Chung, on the other hand, felt bitter. That day, he felt that there were still remnants of the radioactive drug in his body. Furthermore, he couldn't get rid of it with his inner force. This drug was like a small bomb attached to every cell in his body. If he wanted to get rid of it by circulating his inner force, there would be a strong reaction. If he wasn't careful, it might cause a chain reaction and cause his body to suffer serious internal injuries. At the same time, this was an element that was harmful to ordinary people. He had drunk concentrated polonium that was worth $40 million. Yang Chung checked the international market price and toxicity of polonium. He realized that each gram of polonium was enough to kill 10 million ordinary people, and the amount he drank was enough to kill 60 million people. Yang Chung was a little impressed with himself. He was even more impressed with the miraculous endless resolve restoration scripture. From the 8th to the 9th level, he was able to resist the toxicity that 60 million people couldn't handle. This was something he didn't even dare to think about in the past. It seemed like his strength had indeed risen to a new level. This didn't include the other lethal elements. After Yang Chung understood the situation, he could only give up on forcefully circulating his inner force to expel the poison. He could only do his best to suppress the drug in his body. He planned to wait for Jane to rush over from Europe and then let her think of a way. Yang Chung really didn't dare to touch scientific things. However, this also made him not dare to get close to others, let alone have sex with Lu Mingyu. If a trace of poison entered Lu Mingyu's body, wouldn't he regret it for the rest of his life? The day of the end of the trip soon arrived. The group of female public relations didn't have much fun. Unfortunately, their wallets and credit cards were all empty. A group of women wouldn't go to the extent of taking a loan to buy bags and cosmetics, so they could only sigh and return. The last stop was Osaka. The flight from Osaka Kansai International Airport back to Zhonghai was scheduled for the morning. This airport was built on the sea. It was a typical land reclaimed from the sea. However, the road to the airport through the sea bridge was very beautiful. When the group came to the electronic ticket collection point, Yang Cheng said to Lu Mingyu next to him, "I won't go back with you this time. I still have something to do in Japan. I have to take another plane to another city." Lu Mingyu was stunned. She didn't know about Yang Cheng's sudden change of plan. She frowned and said, "Are you serious or joking?" "Of course I'm serious. A friend of mine in Japan wants you to stay there for a few days. Anyway, it's still a holiday. You go back first. I've booked the ticket. I'll leave later." Yang Cheng laughed. Lu Mingyu knew that Yang Cheng returned from overseas. It was not surprising that he had a friend in Japan. Although she wondered why Yang Cheng didn't say it until now, she thought that Yang Cheng was not the kind of person who would act recklessly. She just asked with slight suspicion, "Is it a beautiful friend?" Yang Cheng's eyes widened. "How did you know?" With your little trick, I guessed it immediately." Lu Mingyu couldn't wait to bite Yang Cheng's hand to vent her anger. She wondered if he had been thinking about other women these days. Yang Cheng laughed and patted Lu Mingyu's perky back. "Don't think too much. There is something serious, but it's not convenient to say it. You are not an unreasonable woman. Go back and don't think too much." "Who said I'm not unreasonable?" Lu Mingyu finally felt a little better. She glanced at Yang Cheng with a little sadness and said, "Then take care of yourself." Yang Cheng nodded. He really had to take care of himself. The other colleagues were very dissatisfied with his sudden change of plans. They scolded Yang Cheng for being stingy and saying that he should have brought them along to continue playing. This scared Yang Cheng so much that he hurriedly left. After parting with the group of people, Yang Cheng went to the lounge of his flight. As soon as he sat down, a graceful black-haired lady wearing a black waistcoat, a purple low-collared sweater, and tight-fitting jeans walked over. It was Hanya, who had transformed back into her original form. Hanya said in a respectful tone, "Your Majesty Pluto, do you need to use a private plane?" Yang Cheng blinked. "What private plane?" "Our Yamada sect has a private plane in every airport in Japan. It's just that it's a secret. We can serve you at any time," Hanya explained. Yang Cheng pointed at Hanya and couldn't say anything. After a long time, he finally said, "Why didn't you say so earlier? If you had said so, I wouldn't have needed to book a plane ticket, and I could have saved 1,000 yuan. Do you know that?" Hanya said aggrievedly, "Your Majesty Pluto, you didn't tell me where you were going, and you didn't ask me if there was a plane." Yang Cheng then recalled that he really didn't mention this to Hanya. This female ninja was also frightened by his violent killing that day. Even Noriko Okawa, who was like a god in her eyes, couldn't do anything to this guy. How would she dare to ask for no reason? Her life had just been saved. Yang Cheng waved his hand. All right, bring me there quickly. I want to go to Sapporo in Hokkaido." "I'll go. Be more quick-witted in the future." Hanya repeatedly agreed in a yes-man manner. She didn't look like a cold ninja at all, and was more or less like a maid. This made Yang Chun feel rather unaccustomed to it. However, he didn't know that since he spared Hanya's life, Hanya had already treated Yang Cheng as her new master. Naturally, she behaved in a gentle manner. Together with Hanya, a beauty whose appearance could instantly kill most men, he walked into a VIP passageway in a flashy manner. After walking for a while, they finally arrived at the private plane of the Yamada sect that Hanya mentioned. This was a small private passenger plane. It was a luxury model custom-made from Airbus, and it was expensive. According to Hanya, all the airports in Japan had Yamada sect planes. Yang Cheng couldn't help but feel that he had underestimated Yamada sect's wealth. Although they didn't have as many masters as the mysterious organization in Takamagara, Yamada sect was obviously more confident. This world wasn't a world where pure force could settle everything. After Yang Cheng sat in the spacious cabin, he found that it was full of Italian sofas made of deerskin, various mahogany and mahogany furniture, and a dazzling array of foreign wine. This didn't look like a plane, but a hotel. Corruption. When he was called God, outside, when he returned to Huaxia, he only drove a small BMW M3 around streets. He even had to step on the gas pedal himself. He didn't even have a driver. What was worse was that he borrowed the car from his wife. Yang Cheng felt that he was too conservative. When he returned to China, he insisted that he didn't need to bring the money with him and that he could make his own food and clothing. Although it made him seem more virtuous, wasn't it quite stupid? Yang Cheng felt that he had to consider this issue of life values when he returned. Hanya followed Yang Cheng into the luxurious cabin. She changed into a lavender kimono with a pink belt tied into an exquisite style. Although according to the customs of Japanese kimono, unmarried women's lapels had to be pulled together, Hanya purposely pulled open the V-neck of the kimono, making the turbulent inside more eye-catching. It was unknown whether it was to make Yang Cheng feel comfortable or if there was some hidden meaning. Hanya walked over with a plate, bringing with her a rich fragrance of natural flowers and plants, which made Yang Cheng, who was lying on the sofa, feel refreshed. Your Majesty Pluto, this is the sake specially made by our Yamata sect. It's completely different from the sake outside. We use Hokkaido rice and Nishigon water, and with our special brewing techniques, it's very suitable for drinking on a long journey. Hanya placed a tray in front of Yang Cheng and personally poured the wine for Yang Cheng carefully. Yang Cheng had long smelled the fragrance of this rice wine. After secretly cursing the corruption in his heart, he didn't care who was corrupt and picked up the wine cup and drank it in one gulp. Suddenly, from the corner of his eye, Yang Cheng saw that Hanya, who was kneeling beside him, was actually snow-white skin under her kimono. She wasn't wearing any underwear at all, and a stretch of her strong cleavage was already very obvious. How could this be? Wasn't he waiting for him to commit a crime? Yang Cheng felt that although she had that intention, it wasn't worth it for him to pounce on her so easily. So he waved his hand and said, "Go do your own thing. Don't sit beside me. I don't need to serve you." There was a slight disappointment in Hanya's eyes, but she still stood up gently, bowed, and turned to leave. But after a few steps, Yang Cheng called out to her again, "Hey, wait." A trace of joy flashed between Hanya's brows, and she turned around to ask, "Your Majesty Pluto, what other orders do you have?" Yang Cheng smacked his lips, lowered his head, and poured the wine while saying, "Since your Yamata sect is so resourceful, go and talk to the airline company and ask them to help me return the 1,000 Huaxia dollars that I booked. I didn't even take the plane, just ask them to return the money to me." Lady Hanya, who was in the realm of Jinin and killed without batting an eye, felt her legs go soft, and she almost staggered and fell to the ground. It turned out that gods could also be so stingy. Chapter 332. Anshin's damned wedding was going to be held 2 days later in Otaru, Hokkaido, on the Liu family's cruise ship at Ishikari Bay. This news was confirmed by Make Don after careful investigation. After Yang Chun understood it, he wasn't in a hurry to cause trouble. He arrived at Sapporo in Hokkaido in advance to meet up with Jian, who had just arrived. Jane had just finished a conference organized by the Royal Academy of Sciences. She didn't speak, but was the final judge. When she received Yang Cheng's email and learned that Yang Cheng needed help, she was very anxious. However, Yang Cheng said that there was no problem for the time being. She suppressed her impatience and came to Japan after the conference was over. Yang Cheng had just left Sapporo's airport. Jane, who was wearing a brown coat and a red scarf, was already waiting next to a white Nissan Z370. She seemed to have been waiting for a while. Jane's slightly curly amber hair was always so eye-catching in the crowd. Her special family background and extraordinary wisdom made this young girl look quite mature and charming like a European and American woman. Her exquisite and impeccable appearance made most men feel that it was luxurious at first glance. So in most cases, no lascivious men would mess with her. Seeing that Yang Cheng was walking out of the airport with another Japanese woman, Jane clearly frowned. However, she was obviously helpless about Yang Cheng's interest in that aspect. "Is it your new lover again?" Jane glanced at Hanya and didn't look at her anymore. Yang Cheng laughed. "Do I look like that kind of person?" "You don't. You are," Jane said straightforwardly. Yang Cheng touched his nose. "Get in the car first." He turned around and said to Hanya, "Get your people to pick her up. I have something to deal with." Hanya bowed respectfully and watched Yang Cheng enter Jane's car. After Jane drove out of the airport, Yang Chung said. That's the new leader of Yamada's sect. Her name is Hanya. Jane didn't seem to expect this at all. A trace of surprise flashed through her eyes. Isn't the leader of Yamada sect Noriko Okawa? Immediately after, she thought of something and opened her mouth. Yang Chung, don't tell me you killed that old man Tokugawa. Yang Chung curled his lips. He's dead, but I didn't kill him. We'll talk about the details later. First, take me to a place to check my body condition. I feel uncomfortable all over. Jane nodded, but she still didn't believe it. How did you get poisoned? I don't even think it's possible to poison you. It's a long story. Yang Chung sighed. Before I came here, I asked one of my students to empty out a bioengineering research institute. We can go there immediately for a comprehensive inspection. Jane did not continue to ask. You really have students all over the world. Yang Chung gave Jane a strange look. This little girl was so young, but she had a lot of uncles and aunties as her students. Jane was a little proud. I didn't want to accept them. I couldn't do anything even if they begged me to. Yang Chung looked at Jane, who looked relaxed, and wondered, why do I feel that you're a little different from the last time I saw you? Jane smiled playfully. As it was a private meeting, she didn't put on any makeup. Her flawless face looked fresh and cute. She turned around and winked at Yang Chung. That old woman said so too. Maybe it's because I'm a year older. You know, a woman's psychology changes easily. I used to feel a little scared when I saw you in the past, but ever since I saw you in Hong Kong, I don't think you're that scary. Instead of saying you're our benefactor and leader, you're more like a very strong friend. Yang Chung smiled. She's your mother indeed. Catherine has a good eye, but I've never said that I want to be your leader and benefactor. It's you guys who think too highly of me. In fact, I'm very unsophisticated and poor. Most importantly, my name isn't as long as yours. It seems that you know yourself very well. Jane said seriously. Yang Chung smiled awkwardly. When I saved you and Catherine 8 years ago, I really didn't expect a little girl like you to be so helpful to me. Don't call me a little girl. Jane suddenly glared at Yang Chung. I'm not younger than you. After that, Jane stepped hard on the accelerator. The Z370 coupe was like a white arrow speeding across the highway. The research institute that Jane mentioned was located on a mountainous area of a bay. A silver-gray building was built on a huge piece of flat land. It was the research center owned by Jane's student, but her student had been driven away by this unscrupulous, beautiful Frankenstein teacher to who knows where. After Yang Chung followed Jane all the way into the sterile workshop of the research institute, Jane skillfully collected a blood sample for Yang Chung. However, ordinary tools couldn't obtain Yang Cheng's blood. After all, Yang Cheng's skin was too tough. Yang Chung specifically cooperated with it and let a drop of blood enter the test tube. In about half an hour, I can analyze all the information inside. You wait outside. Jane entered the working state and immediately became extremely serious. She directly asked Yang Chung to wait outside. Yang Chung also knew this woman's character. Geniuses always had a kind of crazy paranoia in the field they were good at, so they could succeed. After walking out of the research room, Yang Chung looked for the nearest corridor and walked to the top of the research institute. The top of the building was a rooftop with wooden floors. The open field of vision could see the distant sea and a large number of Japanese classical houses along the coast. Although the winter in Hokkaido was very cold, it was not a big deal for Yang Chung. He enjoyed the dry and cold sea breeze and quietly waited for Jane's analysis results. In less than half an hour, Jane, who had changed into a white coat, walked to the rooftop with a report. Yang Chung turned around, only to see that Jane's expression was unexpectedly dignified. A pair of blue eyes were full of suppressed anger, as if looking at Yang Chung to eat Yang Chung. Looking at your face, it seems that the situation is more serious than I thought. Yang Chung asked Shan with a smile. At this moment, he was a patient, and Jane was his doctor. How could he not be timid? Jane spread out a stack of documents, flipped through them, and asked coldly, "Tell me the truth. What happened to you? Why did you drink that thing?" Jane's voice was slightly trembling, as if she was very agitated. Yang Chung knew that he couldn't hide it from her. After all, it was related to his life. Thus, he slowly told her about his trip meeting 17, and how he was lured into a trap set by the two monsters, Nariko Okoa, Blue Storm, and Takamagara. When he was drinking the tea brewed by the fake 17, he lost control of his emotions and carelessly drank all the tea that had the drug in it. As for the fact that he had a breakthrough in the endless resolve restoration scripture, Yang Chung didn't mention much about it. After all, he had killed all these people, and Hanya had stabbed the defenseless Okawa to death. After that, she took over the Yamada sect and swore her loyalty to him. Jane was only halfway through the story, but her beautiful eyes were already watery. She looked at Yang Chung with reddened eyes, bit her lips, and said coldly, "Is 17 really that important to you? So important that you can't even see through such a shallow plot? So important that you don't even want to believe that she's really dead?" Yang Chung didn't dare to look into Jane's eyes. Indeed, his heart had always been shrouded in a layer of shadow, but there was also a hidden glimmer of hope that 17 wasn't dead. Obviously, the nine-tailed Arctic fox was using his own psychology to deal with him. Do you know that if you fall, how many people will be baptized by the enemy's gunfire because they won't have your protection? How many areas will become hell on earth because they won't have their spiritual leader? How many people will kill and pillage for the God Stone because of your death? When Jane reached the climax, she suddenly slapped Yang Cheng's face. Slap! Yang Chung didn't dodge, but silently took the slap. Jane's tears flowed. You only think about yourself. Have you ever thought about how sad the people who cared about you and loved you would be for your death? Your 17 is already dead. She's long dead. Are you going to let the people who love you suffer forever because of 17's death? No one can exist forever. You're a god. You can live forever, but we can't. We only hope that when we're alive, we can see you by our side. Whether it's love, hate, sadness, or sadness, don't avoid us. Because no matter if we're in danger or dead, we're willing to trust you. But you went back to Huaxia alone and left us behind. Do you think you're protecting us? You're hurting us. Yang Chung, you're too selfish. Yang Chung stood rooted to the ground in a daze. He looked at Jane, who was sobbing uncontrollably. His mind was filled with frenzied thoughts. Was it because he was too selfish? He silently returned to Huaxia, even though he said he was tired of the life of killing. Although he said that he was tired of the life of killing, he was also afraid of seeing the people around him die because of him, whether it was his friends or his subordinates. How could he watch these people he cherished die because of him? Of course, there were also the people he loved and the women who loved him. Yang Chung thought of the woman who had the same gaze and aura as 17. She must hate him now. Just like what Jane said, he was too selfish. Yang Chung. Jane wiped her tears and calmed herself down. Do you know you're really, really likely to die? Chapter 333. After listening to Jane's conclusion, Yang Chung didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Of course, he knew what Jane meant. If something really happened to him, it could only be that his body would be completely destroyed. But in a sense, it was no different from dying in this life. Is it very serious? Yang Chung asked cryptically. Jane nodded. Every drop of blood in your body is mixed with countless deadly toxins. There are heavy metal toxins, radioactive elements, and many complex compounds. Any one of these elements can kill most people, especially radioactive elements. Especially the radioactive elements. Conservatively speaking, the elements in your body right now are enough to develop 10 atomic bombs. Yang Chen gulped. It can't be. Do I have 10 atomic bombs in my body? What do you think it is? Otherwise, why would I be so angry? Do you know that I feel incredible when you stand in front of me normally now? Jane no longer cared about the elegant demeanor of aristocratic education and yelled. Yang Chung secretly thought that the kung fu that Song Tianqing passed on to him was really amazing. It could even suppress this. Come to think of it, the martial arts of the East, when cultivated to the extreme, was really more domineering than the divine power of the Lord. He just didn't know if he still had the chance to develop to a higher level. After all, he had already completed the last level of the endless resolve restoration scripture, and there was no method to cultivate. Then according to what you said, it's so serious. Can it still be saved? This was the question that Yang Cheng was most concerned about. Jane frowned and said, if it's purely to eliminate these harmful substances, it's completely possible. Although Blue Storm's technology level is the world's top, as long as it's a substance that has been discovered in this world, I have the confidence to solve it. The problem is that the drugs in your body have spread throughout all your blood vessels, and even a large number of tissues have been affected. Even if I want to configure a targeted antidote to neutralize these substances, it's impossible to neutralize your whole body. After all, this is equivalent to fighting poison with poison. Although it can solve the elements you have now, it will bring other harmful substances to your body. Yang Cheng thought about it. Then if I can concentrate all the harmful substances in one place, can you help me get rid of them? Jane was stunned and looked up in surprise. Can you? How is this possible? There's no scientific theory that can do it. This isn't science, Yang Cheng said proudly. This is inner force. Nigong. Jane thought for a moment. You mentioned before that you're practicing Hua Xia's Kung Fu. That kind of magical thing indeed has no scientific basis. That's right. I had a breakthrough 2 days ago. I think I can do it if I give it my all. Although my body will be in severe pain if I do that, I'm confident that I'll be able to forcefully circulate these drugs to a certain organ after a while. Yang Cheng said. He only dared to say this because his inner force had reached the 9th level of the restoration scripture. In the past, he was completely powerless. Jane heaved a sigh of relief. If he can really do that, then the only problem left is to formulate a neutralizing antidote. This isn't a big problem for me. Many of the scientists in Blue Storm are my students. Yang Cheng smiled stiffly. The good student you taught has caused me trouble. You should be glad that my students don't have the traditional Chinese medicine that your Hua Xiao mentioned. Jane seemed to be relieved and smiled. Traditional Chinese medicine? Why? Jane explained, because in this world, only the drugs developed by traditional Chinese medicine are difficult to explain using scientific theory. Many of the drugs developed by traditional Chinese medicine have unimaginably complex molecular structures. I once tried to analyze a traditional Chinese medicine pill, but in the end, I realized that if I wanted to analyze the drug composition, it would take me 10 to 15 years, and it might not be accurate. You can imagine how terrifying something that even I can't analyze is. So, if you were poisoned by a traditional Chinese medicine toxin, you might really have to live with 10 atomic bombs for more than 10 years. Yang Cheng broke out in a cold sweat. It seemed like he couldn't underestimate these toxins in the future. If there was really a pervert who combined the theory of traditional Chinese medicine to poison him, and he still took it, wouldn't he be unable to touch women for the rest of his life? Poor Jane. She would never have guessed that Yang Cheng wasn't worried about the atomic bombs in his body, but about not being able to sleep with women. Since she had already thought of a solution, and Yang Cheng had to deal with things the day after tomorrow, Jane didn't waste any more time. She contacted the raw material supplier as soon as possible and planned to develop the antidote in 2 days. Only Jane dared to say that she could complete it in 2 days. After all, the people who developed the drug were all at the level of her students. After listening to Jane's reprimand, Yang Cheng couldn't calm down for a long time. More than a year ago, because of 17's death, his violent and bloodthirsty heart had calmed down. His brain had also finally become controllable under the severe stimulation. It could be said that if it wasn't for 17's departure, Yang Cheng might have become a walking corpse that only knew how to kill, or a ferocious beast. However, that unforgettable pain made Yang Cheng feel a fear that was worse than death. And now, after breaking through the rebirth level of the endless resolve restoration scripture, he understood more of the true meaning of life. And after personally killing the 17 that the 9-tailed white fox had transformed into, Yang Cheng actually gradually understood that his 17 was really gone. What Jane said just now was like a warning bell that dispelled the dark clouds in his mind. Hurting the people around him because of his own fear, and hurting the people around him because of him were undoubtedly a form of harm. Then, why should he retreat? He had lost it before, so was he going to let it go now? In the blink of an eye, it was as if a new world had appeared in Yang Cheng's mind. Yang Chun suddenly had a strong urge. He wanted to listen to that ice-cold woman's ice-cold voice. Even if he was scolded or ridiculed by her, it would be an enjoyable thing to think about at this moment. How did I become a masochist? Yang Chung smiled bitterly and took out his phone. But just as he was about to make a call, he cursed, "Baka! Japan doesn't allow international calls." Yang Chung anxiously paced a few rounds on the rooftop. He immediately remembered that he could still order around Hanya from the Yamada sect, so he directly sent an email to Hanya's contact address. "Quickly contact the telecommunications company and let my phone number be able to make international calls." He didn't know what expression Hanya had on her face. She was probably speechless at this master who always did such trivial things, but she still quickly replied with a confirmation message. With a somewhat joyful mood, Yang Chung dialed Lin Ruashi's phone in the faraway Hainan. After a few beeps, the phone was picked up after a long time. Although it was picked up, Lin Ruashi didn't say a word. She seemed to be waiting for Yang Chung to speak. Yang Chung cleared his throat and shouted with a smile, "Honey, did you have fun?" Lin Ruashi still didn't speak, and he didn't know what she meant. Yang Chung frowned, thinking that this girl had started to play the iceberg game again. He continued, "Ruashi baby, originally I was going back to Zhonghai today, but because of a friend's invitation, I came to Hokkaido to play. I will go back after a while. When you get home, give me a call to tell me that you are safe. Oh, by the way, do you want any gifts? I will buy them for you. Do you want a diamond, as big as a cow's eye? A gold bracelet, as thick as a toe? Or do you want Japanese glutinous rice balls? That thing is not easy to carry, and it will easily expire and deteriorate." There was still no sound from the phone. Yang Chung suspected that Lin Ruashi had picked up the phone and walked away. In the end, Yang Chung was helpless. After saying a bunch of nonsense, he said, "Bye-bye," and hung up the phone. Yang Chung sighed. It seemed that Lin Ruashi hated him to the bone. They hadn't seen each other for so long, and she didn't even say a word when he called her. It was obvious that she didn't want to talk to him. However, he didn't know that in the suite of a five-star hotel in Hainan, it was a different scene. Lin Ruashi had just taken a shower in the morning and was wearing a thin silk nightgown. Her hair was still wet, and her beautiful and fair face was full of red. Her bright eyes were wide open, and she looked at the phone in her hand with a strange expression. After confirming that it was the man who called, Lin Ruashi turned around and threw the phone on the bed with all her might. The phone bounced a few times on the soft bed before it stopped. Lin Ruashi pointed at the phone with one hand and put the other hand on her waist. She said angrily, "You only called after 10 days to half a month. Do you think I will give you a good attitude? Damn Yang Chung. Stinky Yang Chung. I won't say anything. You'll suffocate to death. Just wait for the divorce. A diamond as big as a cow's eye? A friend from Hokkaido? Go coax your little Japanese girl, who said that glutinous rice balls go bad easily. Can a 4-hour flight go bad? If you don't want to bring it, just say it. You don't need to wait for half a year. I'll divorce you when I get back." At this time, Imo Chinny, who had also just woken up and was wearing her pajamas, took a glass of water from the other room and walked back to the bedroom. She happened to see Lin Ruashi with one hand on her waist and the other pointing at the phone on the bed, scolding Yang Chung. She was instantly petrified on the spot. Chapter 334. For the next 2 days, Yang Chung obediently stayed in the research center and listened to Jane's instructions, cooperating with her to concoct the antidote. At the same time, he also got the Yamada sect to investigate the Liu family situation in Ishikari Bay. On the evening of the second day, in the laboratory of the research center, under the combined effect of Yang Chang's domineering inner force and Jane's newly concocted antidote, all the time bombs in Yang Chang's body were neutralized and disappeared without a trace. After expelling the antidote from his body, Yang Chung suddenly felt the restoration scripture's vital energy circulate more smoothly in his meridians, and his various organs were much more sensitive than before. Only then did Yang Chung understand that the improvement he felt previously was not the complete power of the rebirth realm. Now that he was no longer under the influence of the antidote, he could be considered to have truly grasped the power of the 9th level. Jane also watched with trepidation as Yang Chung recovered his health and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Yang Chung looked at the haggard woman in front of him, who had not slept for 2 days, and felt rather touched. He had once saved the mother and daughter back then, and they had already repaid this kindness more than once or twice. Not to mention that his brain disease had been suppressed by Jane's treatment back then. The mother and daughter had also helped him a lot in other aspects. "Thank you. You always help me solve the most troublesome problems," Yang Chung said sincerely. If not for this amazingly talented woman, he might have had to put in a lot of effort to do many things. Jane's lips were a little pale, and she forced a smile. "If you want to thank me, don't do stupid things like that in the future. You're the Pluto King, not the stupid king. It's just a code name. Gods are humans too, and humans are bound by emotions. But I admit that this time, I was indeed too obsessed with the past. Not only this time, but I've also made many mistakes in the past." Yang Chung smiled, a hint of nostalgia flashing across his eyes. "I've thought it through. It just so happens that Hokkaido is a good place to relax and vacation. This time, I'll let them gather here. I miss them quite a bit too." Jane didn't ask who they were, obviously very clear about it. Instead, she asked, "How do you plan to deal with Blue Storm, the Vatican, and Takamijihara? Start a war with them?" Yang Chun shook his head. "I'm not afraid of them. But in this world, if the Vatican and Blue Storm were to suddenly be attacked by me, it would obviously disrupt the balance of the entire world. As you said, the flames of war will be reignited because of me. The Vatican was also the main force in Europe that could restrain the Covenant of Darkness. This situation had been maintained for centuries and could not be broken. As for Takamijihara, forget it. Who knows if I can find all of them? They didn't even have a leader, and each of them lived their own lives. This time, the nine-tailed white fox and the 9 lives demon cat are here to seek revenge for their elder sister, the Snow Lady. There's no need to kill so many people at once. Are we just going to let them go?" Jane was obviously a little angry. "They will do anything to get the Godstone." Yang Chung smiled. "I've already asked Hanya to send the corpses of the 3 from Blue Storm and the 3 from the Vatican to the gates of the United States Department of Defense and the Vatican, all in my name. This is my final warning to them. I think they understand what I mean." Jane pouted. "What if they still don't understand? Then I don't mind killing the United States Department of Defense, then going to the Vatican to kill the Pope." A cold glint flashed in Yang Cheng's eyes. He laughed coldly. "Even if the seal is unsealed, there's no resistance if I want to massacre their headquarters now." Suddenly, Jane leaned over and kissed Yang Cheng's left cheek. Feeling the cold and soft touch on his face, Yang Chung was stunned. He looked at Jane, who was not embarrassed at all and did not understand what was going on. "I like you now, just like how you were when you saved us when you were 15 years old," Jane said with a gentle gaze. With that, Jane stretched and walked out of the lab. "Go do what you need to do. I need to sleep." Yang Chung touched the wet marks on his face and sighed. Liu family's Liu Yun's wedding was arranged for the next morning. Yang Chung felt that it was time to set off, so he asked Hanya to prepare an inconspicuous Honda sedan for him and went to the seaside hotel in Otaru City alone. According to the report from Maekden's spy, Anshin was locked up in a 4-star hotel by the seaside in Otaru City. The Liu family was watching over her all day and did not allow her to go out. Fortunately, she was not bullied, so Maekden's spy did not expose himself to rescue Anshin. When he drove into Otaru City, it was already a starry night. Yang Chung came to the side of the hotel building where Anshin was staying. He felt hungry, so he ate 2 bowls of ramen at a traditional ramen shop by the roadside. Then, he thought about how he should go up. After all, this was Japan. It was not difficult to rescue Anshin and kill the Liu family. The most important thing was to make this show exciting. If he only wanted to end this impossible wedding, Yang Chung could just ask the ninjas of Yamada sect to knock them out and rescue Anshin. At the same time, in a spacious and bright presidential suite in the hotel, Anshin, who was wearing a white wedding dress, stood in front of a huge mirror. She was holding a bouquet of flowers in her hands, and 2 wedding attendants stood beside her, helping to arrange Anshin's style. An Exion's gentle and charming face looked even more pure and beautiful under the contrast of the pure and holy wedding dress. Her snow-white skin, glossy face, and exquisite facial features were displayed to the extreme at this moment. The superior environment she grew up in and that trace of pride made an Exion look as radiant as an imperial princess under the lights. However, Anshin's expression did not look good. Her watery eyes were filled with suppressed anger. She pursed her rosy lips tightly and did not say a word. When the two wedding attendants saw Anshin in the mirror, they revealed an extremely envious look. In their opinion, it was unreasonable for the bride to be in such a bad mood. She was able to marry an elegant young master like Lu Yun and was also from a wealthy family, but she still looked so unlucky. She really did not know what was good for her. However, they would not say what they thought in their hearts. They only asked, "Miss Anshin, is there anything else you need?" Anshin let out a long breath. "No, you can leave." "Yes." The two attendants did not dare to stay any longer and obediently walked out and closed the door. When the two people left, Anshin directly threw the flowers behind her and forcefully undid all the buttons and belt of the wedding dress on her body. After throwing the dress that was worth more than 100,000 yuan on the ground, only the thin white silk pajamas were left inside. Anshin felt a burst of bitterness in her heart. Ever since she was forcibly dragged into another plane by her father and came to Japan, her life had been monitored. She was forced to do this and that to prepare to marry that Lu Yin. Anshin was also puzzled. She had already ruined her reputation. Why was the Lu family still so persistent in accepting her as a daughter-in-law? Although the family financial resources were not small, the Lu family obviously had more choices. If there was one reason, it would be that the Lu family sincerely wanted to take revenge on her and not let her successfully escape from the marriage. Looking at the misty night outside the window, Anshin's heart was sour and her eyes could not help but turn red again. If she had known earlier, she would have left with that bad guy. She even said that she would wait for fate to decide whether or not she would become his woman. She had already given her body to him. She couldn't help but want to do that kind of thing with him on the plane. Wasn't that because she liked him? Why did she have to be romantic like a little girl? All right, now that she didn't get the romance, she threw herself into it. However, where was that man now? He once stood in front of her like a brave knight. Would he still be like that now? Thinking of this, Anshin felt that she was too ridiculous. She did not grasp the opportunity at the beginning. Now that she was abducted to this corner of Hokkaido, could it be that she still hoped that he would be here? Besides, even if he knew that she was forced to marry someone she didn't like, he wouldn't have the ability to stop such a big marriage. In this life, she would probably regret it for the rest of her life. But she hoped that the man could have a happy life. Just that. Does he still remember me? At this moment, the door suddenly opened. Anshin suddenly thought of something. She turned around in surprise, followed by disappointment. The person who came was actually Lu Yun in a white suit. Lu Yun saw the change in Anshin's expression and laughed in his heart. "Bitch, are you disappointed to see me?" Looking at the wedding dress on the ground, Lu Yun's eyes became more and more gloomy. "Anshin, we're going to get married tomorrow. Are you satisfied with the wedding dress?" Lu Yun walked forward with a fake smile and asked. Anshin subconsciously retreated to the bedside and looked at Lu Yun nervously. "If you want to talk, then say it. Don't come close to me. We are about to get married. After tomorrow, we will be legal husband and wife. On the eve of our wedding night, can't we get intimate?" Lu Yun looked at Anshin's voluptuous figure under her silk pajamas, and a sinister flame appeared in his eyes. What a beautiful and charming woman, but she actually let a beast drink the first drop of soup. Seeing that Lu Yun was getting closer, Anshin suddenly took out a knife from under her pillow. The silver knife was pointed at Lu Yun, and Anshin shouted, "If you come any closer, I will cut your face. Then commit suicide." Lu Yun's footsteps paused. His heart was burning with anger, but he still calmed down. He was extremely good at enduring. When he saw Anshin and Yang Chung together, he also endured like this. "All right, don't be agitated. I'll leave now." Lu Yun cursed in his heart. "Bitch," pretending to be a virtuous woman. "After tomorrow, you still have to obediently be beaten up by me. When I'm done playing, I'll directly throw you to those bear-like bodyguards. Let's see how you're going to live to see people in the future. What you gave me, I will return to you 10 times, 100 times. All right, don't even think about getting all the family's assets. With these thoughts in his mind, Lu Yun quickly put on a spring breeze-like smile again, said good night to Anshin, and walked out of the room. Anshin finally let out a sigh of relief. As if she had used all her strength, she put the knife back under her pillow. However, tears of grievance still couldn't help but flow down, dripping down along her smooth face and onto the bedsheet. Right at this moment, the door was opened again. Anshin's nerves tensed up again, and she suddenly took out the knife from under her pillow, pointed it at the person at the door, and screamed, "Get out! Get out! I told you to get out. Otherwise, I'll die in front of you." Chapter 335. Just as Yang Chun found an Xian's room, he sneaked into her room with a smile on his face. Just as he entered the room, he saw an Xian in her pajamas holding a utility knife and telling him she wanted to commit suicide. Hey, don't get too worked up. If you don't want to see me, I'll go out, okay? Don't commit suicide, Yang Chung said gloomily. Anshin heard this voice. Why does it sound so familiar? Isn't it Lu Yun? She opened her watery eyes and took a closer look. Her delicate body trembled, and the utility knife in her hand fell to the ground. She looked at Yang Chung, who had a playful smile on his face, in disbelief. Yang, you, why? Anyone who saw someone they couldn't possibly see in such a situation would be completely dumbfounded. It was rare that Anshin didn't faint immediately. Yang Chung quietly closed the door and locked it. He walked 2 to 3 meters in front of Anshin and opened his arms. When Anshin saw the man, she thought about day and night. She pouted. Like a wronged little girl looking for someone to dote on her, she jumped into Yang Cheng's arms and wrapped her arms around Yang Cheng's neck. She buried her head in Yang Cheng's chest and cried out loud. Yang Cheng felt sorry for her. He patted the woman's back and smelled the natural fragrance on Anshin's body. He listened to her crying and knew that she must have suffered a lot of unfair treatment these days. She must be full of negative emotions that she wanted to vent. She was kidnapped by her biological father to Japan and thrown to the Liu family. She was locked in her room all day and surrounded by surveillance. She was like a kidnapped wife who had no human rights. Other than living like a pet canary, she had to be on guard against Lu Yun's sudden mischief. For more than 10 days, an Xan, who had been filled with a yearning for freedom, could not help but go crazy. After sobbing for more than a quarter of an hour, Anshin finally calmed down. She wiped her red eyes and blinked at Yang Chung, worried that she had mistaken him for someone else. Yang Chung grinned. "I'm not mistaken. Baby Anshin, it's your husband." Anshin's face reddened. "I can tell. Other than you, no one else would be so thick-skinned as to claim to be someone else's husband." Then Anshin asked, "Why are you here? Didn't anyone notice you coming up here?" Yang Chung thought to himself, "How could those good-for-nothings discover me?" He said, "You don't need to know how I found it. Last time, you said that if I wanted to possess you, it would depend on fate to let us meet again. I kept waiting, but in the end, I suddenly found out that you were going to marry Lu Yun. That was basically breaking the rules of the game. I thought that I couldn't give my woman to a gigolo, so I went to the temple and asked the Taoist to read my fortune. Knowing that you were here, I went through a lot of hardships to find this place, intending to save you from the abyss of suffering. By the way, your theory of fate still counts, right? Now that we've met, you're not allowed to run away." Anshin giggled. What a glib tongue. How can there be a Taoist in a temple? Tell me the truth. Have you been spying on me? How could you find me so easily? You even knew that I was going to be married to the Liu family. How could the Liu family let you know? Even if I'm spying on you, it's still better than letting you be snatched away by Lu Yun. Yang Chung pecked the tip of Anshin's nose. "Look at you. You're crying like a cat." An Xian wrinkled her nose and looked at Yang Chung with a happy yet angry expression. In the end, she tiptoed and kissed Yang Chen's forehead. "Thank you, Yang Chung. I've always been praying that you would come to save me, just like in the past. Now that you've really come, I have to thank you for making my dream come true. Yang Cheng smiled weirdly. You're so quick to thank me. Why don't you ask me how I'm going to save you? Anshin said with a mischievous expression. I'm not an idiot. You can even find me, and you can easily go up to the presidential suite on the top floor without being discovered. You definitely have your ways. I can't be bothered to ask you. I'll do whatever you say. Looks like you're very aware. You're already following your husband's tune? Yang Cheng said in amusement. Anshin smiled charmingly. Fate brought us together. Now, even if you chase me away, I'll still stick to you. I'll follow whatever you sing. Looking at the beauty who was more beautiful than a flower whispering in his arms, Yang Cheng suddenly had a fiery impulse. As he breathed, Anshin's body fragrance was like a drug that could make people commit crimes. Yang Cheng unconsciously rubbed one hand on Anshin's back while the other moved to Anshin's perky buttocks. The soft and bouncy feeling made Yang Cheng involuntarily grab it. Ing! Anshin softly moaned. Her eyebrows were like crescent moons, and her eyes were like spring water. Her tender and beautiful oval face revealed a seductive expression, as if she was enjoying Yang Cheng's rough movements. You're hurting me, an Xian said as she breathed out. Do you want to pinch me a few more times? I think you'll like it a lot. Yang Cheng said with a smirk. Anshin rolled her eyes at him bitterly. She suddenly thought of something and said, Wait, let me do something first. Yang Cheng was startled. How could he interrupt her when she was in high spirits? Anshin forcefully pushed Yang Cheng away and said, Turn around. Wait until I'm done before you turn around. Yang Cheng saw Anshin's serious expression and wondered what she wanted to do. However, he didn't want to go against his woman's will, so he slowly turned around. He heard some rustling sounds behind him. After about a minute, he heard Anshin say, All right, turn around. Yang Cheng leisurely turned around and was immediately dumbfounded. He saw that Anshin had already put on the pure white wedding dress and turned into a radiant bride. However, the difference was that Yang Cheng could clearly see Anshin's snow-white arms, delicate collarbones, and the smooth and beautiful calves. Anshin had actually taken off her pajamas and was only wearing a thin wedding dress. The wedding dress's lace patterns and various hollow designs made Anshin's entire body vaguely attractive. Coupled with Anshin's shy expression, Yang Cheng momentarily forgot to breathe. No wonder people say that the moment a woman puts on a wedding dress is one of the most beautiful moments in her life. Yang Cheng finally believed this sentence. Hubby, am I beautiful? Anshin shyly called out, and as soon as she finished speaking, she immediately blushed and lowered her head, not daring to look at Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng's entire heart was about to melt. How is this a woman? This is a demon. Femme fatale, but why is this fatale so tempting? Darling Anshin, you don't need to sleep tonight. I feel like I have endless energy. Yang Cheng didn't say anything more. He walked forward and hugged Anshin tightly in his arms and kissed her heavily. Although the two had only met twice in total, both times they had been intimate. The coordination between them was incomparable, and they quickly entered a state of entanglement. As the two kissed passionately, they slowly moved to the soft side of the big bed. Following that, Yang Cheng gently threw the bride in the wedding dress to the center of the big bed. When Yang Cheng pounced on Anshin, Anshin's eyes were already like silk, and she was extremely aroused. Her heart was filled with joy and longing for a man, coupled with the current special environment. Under various stimuli, Anshin couldn't wait to make love to Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng kissed Anshin's delicate collarbone and said vaguely, Darling, just wear the wedding dress. I haven't tried this kind of uniform yet. Oh, this is not a uniform. Anshin mumbled softly. Don't be afraid of breaking it. It's the Liu family's anyway. If you want to tear it, it's okay. This sentence was like throwing a match into an oil can, and Yang Cheng's pair of eyes were about to turn red. It's okay to tear it? If Yang Cheng didn't understand the meaning of this sentence, he would have lived for so many years in vain. This was clearly seeking violence, seeking excitement. Yang Cheng laughed evilly and shouted, Little lady, I'm coming. He used his strength to turn Anshin's soft body over. Anshin's perky buttocks were arched very cooperatively, and the fluffy wedding dress brought along a burst of fragrance. Yang Chung didn't hold back and looked at the white dress in front of him. His hands casually pulled on both sides, and suddenly, with a crack sound, the dress was torn into several pieces. Anshin's small white underwear was also revealed, and wrapped around her round and beautiful buttocks. It seemed a bit small. Yang Cheng's desire had already reached the peak, and he bent down to press on her from behind. Not long after, the big bed in the presidential suite began to shake violently. As for the lingering moans, it was even louder, and it stirred people's hearts if Lu Yun, who was complacent and full of endless fantasies, knew that his bride was in the room, wearing a wedding dress specially prepared for her, and was crazily exercising with another man. He would probably directly vomit blood to death. This continued for more than 2 hours, and Yang Chung saw that the pitiful little bride under him was about to faint from the stimulation. Only then did he immediately put away his wildness, and after releasing all of his savings, he hugged Anshin in his arms and laid down. Anshin's little face was flushed, and she was on the verge of collapsing for a long time before she could open her mouth to speak. She punched Yang Cheng's chest. Yang Chung, you bullied me. Isn't this what you want? I tore the dress and worked so hard. It was all for you. Yang Chung said seriously, I only said that you could tear the dress. You did it for 2 hours, but you didn't say to stop. I heard you moaning, and in the end, you stopped moaning, so I thought you hadn't played enough. Anshin was speechless, and she simply didn't say anything. After resting for a while, Anshin remembered and asked, Yang Chung, you haven't told me what to do next. Yang Chung said indifferently, you don't have to do anything, just continue to be your bride tomorrow. Huh? Anshin was clearly confused. Yang Chung smiled strangely. Anyway, do what you have to do, and be your bride on the cruise tomorrow. As for the wedding, it's definitely going to be special. Anshin blinked her eyes, and seeing that Yang Chung wanted to keep her in suspense, she didn't ask anymore. She let out a cute yawn, and her head drilled into Yang Cheng's chest. I'm going to sleep. Be my pillow. Don't move. Yang Chung pulled the quilt to cover Anshin, and then picked up the phone on the bedside table. There's already a text message from an unknown number. The mission has been successfully carried out. Chapter 336. In a high-class private clubhouse in Otaru, Lu Yun and one of his assistants were doing an essential oil massage, doing the last bit of maintenance for tomorrow's wedding. The assistant was a middle-aged, refined man wearing gold-rimmed glasses. He was lying on the soft white bed with his boss, Lu Yun, enjoying the professional treatment from 2 Japanese masseuses. While the masseuse was serving the 2 of them, she would occasionally rub her plump breasts on the man's back and arms. This kind of suggestive action was not rare, and Lu Yun and his assistant were used to it, so they did not have any special expressions. They were not interested in women of this level. 2 of Lu Yun's bodyguards stood at the door majestically. They were the elite special forces that the Lu family had poached from the special forces. Lu Yun would never leave the house alone. Being cautious, he brought 2 bodyguards with him at the very least. Just as Lu Yun was about to hum a tune from the comfort of his body, the assistant's phone rang. The assistant looked at the number. It was a call from the clubhouse's front desk. She must have something to inform him, so he picked up the call. The assistant spoke in Japanese and asked the front desk what was going on. A lady at the front desk said in a hurried tone, Sir, a group of people are rushing in to look for you. We can't stop them. The assistant asked a few questions and hung up the phone. He said to Lu Yun, Boss, there are more than 10 people looking for trouble with us. The front desk said they seem to be from Yamaguchi-gumi. Yamaguchi-gumi? Lu Yun frowned. Even though he was young, promising, and calm, he was confused. Yamaguchi-gumi won't cause trouble for no reason. We have business dealings with their businesses in Japan. Logically speaking, they won't harm us. Don't act rashly for now, Lu Yun said as he got up from the bed. He put on his suit jacket and prepared to meet the members of Yamaguchi-gumi. In less than half a minute, a group of at least 10 men and women walked into the room under the lead of a bearded bald man. The group of people had tattoos on their arms, necks, and other parts of their skin. Liu Yin was immediately sure that they were from Yamaguchi-gumi. Japan was the only country in the world that recognized the underworld as legal. This was not unrelated to historical reasons, but it was certain that the Yamaguchi-gumi had developed very well in Japan. Everyone who joined the Yamaguchi-gumi, regardless of gender, had to be tattooed. Moreover, it wasn't just a small tattoo. Their entire body was covered with all kinds of seductive totems. 2 bodyguards had already stood in front of Liu Yun on both sides, ready to protect Liu Yun at any time. "You are J Clouds Corporation's Liu Yun?" The baldy stared at Liu Yun with his beady eyes, rubbing his chin as he asked. Liu Yun smiled calmly and said in Japanese, "That's right. May I know what the Yamaguchi-gumi friends are looking for? Who's your friend?" The bald man glared at Liu Yun. "I'm the leader of Yamaguchi-gumi's Otaru City branch, Iduro. My men have reported to me that you're doing heroin business in my territory." "Heroin?" Liu Yun was confused. "What did I do a heroin deal?" Iduro snorted coldly. "Don't quibble. If you didn't do it, my men wouldn't have reported it to me. Although we, Yamaguchi-gumi, are a triad, we won't allow people from other countries to poison our people with drugs. You're a cunning businessman. If you really didn't do it, do you dare to let us search you?" Liu Yun felt that something was wrong, as if someone wanted to harm him. He thought for a while and said, "Mr. Iduro, I know you're District Chief Hashimoto. Can you allow me to make a call to District Chief Hashimoto before deciding if I want to be searched? After all, I think there's some misunderstanding. It wouldn't be good for our relationship to be strained." Jade Cloud Corporation was, after all, a multinational corporation. The district chief of Yamaguchi-gumi, Hashimoto Hirohiko, was one of Jade Cloud's partners. Liu Yun guessed that an enemy from the business world wanted to harm him. However, Liu Yun wasn't afraid. Even if it was Yamaguchi-gumi, he didn't care about ordinary city leaders. Iduro hesitated for a while and nodded. "Make the call quickly." Liu Yun got his assistant to call Hashimoto Hirohiko. After a few rings, Hashimoto's voice came from the other end. "Mr. Liu, why are you calling so late at night? Is there anything important?" Liu Yun smiled and said a few words. He then told Hashimoto about his subordinate Iduro wanting to search him for heroin. He hoped that Hashimoto would be tactful enough to take his stupid subordinate away. Hashimoto Hirohiko said, "Since Mr. Liu doesn't think that you're in the heroin business, then you don't have to care about being searched. Our cooperation is based on integrity. It's only right for us to accept each other's supervision. Iduro is defending the honor of Yamaguchi-gumi. Please cooperate, Mr. Liu." After that, he hung up the phone without waiting for Liu Yun to say anything. Liu Yun's face darkened. He felt that there was something fishy going on. Hashimoto seemed to have known about it and had prepared an excuse. Liu Yun didn't know that as soon as he hung up the phone, another scene was happening in Hashimoto Hirohiko's luxurious villa in Sapporo. Hashimoto Hirohiko was kneeling in front of a woman in black with a graceful figure. With a flattering smile, he said, "Chief, the matter has been settled. All that's left is to capture that Liu Yun." This lady was Hanya, who continued her mission after separating from Yangcheng. Hanya nodded indifferently. "You know what to do next, right?" "Yes. I'll definitely complete the mission given by the chief without a single mistake. This is the mission given by my master. If you make even the slightest mistake, your head will fall to the ground the moment you make a mistake," Hanya said with a cold glint in her eyes. Hashimoto gulped nervously and shouted, "Yes." Yamaguchi-gumi, one of the top mafia organizations in the world, was a part of the Yamada sect. The situation in the club was very clear. A trace of mockery flashed in Iburo's beady eyes. He waved his hand and said, "Go and search carefully." A group of Yamaguchi-gumi hoodlums responded loudly and immediately went up violently, ready to rip off Liu Yun and his assistant's clothes. Liu Yun's 2 special forces bodyguards couldn't hold back anymore. They went up and wanted to beat up these Yamaguchi-gumi members. Unexpectedly, although these members looked ordinary, they were actually carefully selected experts in judo and karate. All of them were at the level of a black belt. At the same time, they had experience in fighting. The two Special Forces soldiers didn't even manage to resist before they were beaten up by 7 to 8 members. They bled from all 7 orifices and were half dead. Lu Yun and his assistant naturally didn't have any strength to resist. After being grabbed by the members, their clothes were forcefully ripped off. 2 female members searched the pockets of Lu Yun and his assistant's suits. Suddenly, they took out 3 to 4 packets of white powder. It was heroin. Lu Yun's face turned pale. He glared angrily at the 2 masseuses who gave him a massage. However, they lowered their heads and didn't make a sound. This heroin isn't mine. It must be these 2 women who stuffed it into my clothes. Lu Yun shouted in shock. Just because you say it's theirs, it's theirs? Why would these 2 masseuses want to harm you for no reason? Also, how could they have the ability to obtain such a large amount of heroin? Iburo said with disdain. At this moment, one of the masseuses raised her head and shouted, "Sir, you can't slander us. We don't know you at all." Lu Yun was about to go crazy. Thinking back, the reason why the 2 women rubbed their breasts against him wasn't to seduce him. Instead, they were trying to divert their attention so that they could stuff the heroin into their clothes. What a deep scheme. The important thing wasn't the scheme itself, but the fact that someone had such a perfect grasp of the entire situation. Cold sweat appeared on Lu Yun's forehead. Who exactly did I offend? Why did something like this have to happen at this moment? I need to make a phone call. Lu Yun hurriedly shouted when he saw that the few people wanted to grab him. He wanted to report to his father, Lu Kangbai. Only his father could help him clear his name. However, Iburo snorted coldly. "Mr. Lu, you've already lied to us once. Do you think we'll be lied to again? Take them away." Lu Yun's phone was snatched away by a female member. Even his assistant's belongings were taken away. A group of Yamaguchi-gumi members grabbed Lu Yun and his assistant and taped their mouths shut. After leaving the high-class clubhouse, they boarded a white Toyota business car. 20 minutes later, the car door opened again. A well-dressed Lu Yun and his assistant walked onto the street calmly and walked back to their car. However, the 2 bodyguards didn't follow them. On the sparsely populated street, no one noticed anything amiss at all. Chapter 337. The next morning, before the afterglow of the morning sun dissipated, guests from the Lu clan's luxury cruise had already boarded the ship at the port of Ishikari Bay. As the hosts, Lu Kangbai and Zai Huan had already brought a group of subordinates with them. They stood on both sides of the entrance and welcomed the guests with smiles on their faces. As they chatted with each other, even the ice-cold sea breeze didn't feel cold anymore. After an hour or so, a white helicopter with the logo of the Jade Clouds group slowly landed on the apron on the top floor of the cruise ship from afar. Under the watch of everyone, Lu Yun, who was dressed in a well-ironed groom's tuxedo, walked down from the helicopter in high spirits. His face was radiant and handsome, and many guests who saw him whispered to each other, praising his good looks. Soon after, Anshin, who was dressed in a glamorous outfit, alighted from the helicopter. Her black hair was tied up high, and she was wearing a cold-proof red windbreaker. She walked into the cabin under the protection of a few bodyguards. Anshin felt that Lu Yun, who was walking in front of her, was a little strange. Ever since they met this morning, he hadn't spoken a word to her at all. He also looked at her as if she was a stranger. Recalling what Yang Cheng said last night, Anshin couldn't help but wonder, could it be that Yang Cheng fed Lu Yun some kind of magic potion that made Lu Yun become an idiot? After all the guests boarded the ship, the luxury cruise set sail towards the center of the sea at Ishikari Bay. The cruise would stay at sea for 2 days to celebrate the wedding. The wedding hadn't officially started yet, but the banquet hall of the cruise was already bustling with noise and excitement. Hundreds of guests were toasting and chatting with each other. Around the hall, there were dozens of large LED screens that were broadcasting romantic music. The melodious melody made everyone happy. However, most of these guests were the relatives and friends of the Yin and Lu clan, as well as their business partners. As for the few big clans in Zhonghai, such as the Yuan clan and the Kai clan, they didn't participate. The reason was simple. Since the Lu clan planned to annex the Yin clan, there was no reason for them to make such a big deal out of it. Even inviting these guests was just to make Zai Huan lower his guard. Moreover, Anshin wasn't willing to get married in the first place. Therefore, it was reasonable for them to come to Japan to get married. Liu Kangbai and Zaihuan went up the stage together and started to give their pre-wedding speech. When Liu Kangbai walked down the stage, he turned around and glanced at Zaihuan, who was beaming with joy on the stage. His lips curled into a sneer. Calling an assistant over, Liu Kangbai asked, "Have young master and that Anshin arrived yet?" The assistant replied respectfully, "Young master said that we can officially start the wedding. Everything is ready." Liu Kangbai glanced at the second floor opposite the banquet hall and saw his son, Liu Yun, raising his glass to him from afar. Liu Kangbai felt proud in his heart. In terms of being ruthless and not bothering about trifles, his son was definitely better than him. He would rather give up his reputation and marry the woman who settled down. Then he would legitimately annex the property of settled down. Even if he knew that the woman had been ruined by other men, he would not hesitate. Once the plan was completed, the Liu family's assets would be on par with the Yuan family of Zhonghai. Unfortunately, the Yuan family had Yang Jiu. The Liu family was destined to be unable to surpass the Yuan family in terms of official background. However, Liu Kangbai felt that he had no regrets in his life. Liu Kangbai received a glass of champagne from a waiter and raised his glass to Liu Yun. Then he said to his assistant, "Let the pastor go up the stage. The wedding will officially start." "Yes, Chairman." Not long after, the guests began to return to their seats following the announcement from the radio. On both sides of the red carpet in the middle, the flowers that were transported from Holland bloomed. The lights in the hall started to dim. The dozens of huge screens in the surroundings also stopped playing music and switched to the sonorous melody of the wedding march. When the MC announced, "The groom is entering the stage," everyone's gaze turned towards the entrance. Liu Kangbai had already taken his seat and was waiting for Liu Yun to enter the stage like everyone else. On the other hand, Zaihuan went to the backstage and prepared to hold onto Anshin's hand to enter the stage. However, after waiting for almost a minute, Liu Yun's figure was still nowhere to be seen. Liu Kangbai frowned. Just when he was about to ask what was going on, he saw Liu Yun's makeup artist running downstairs hurriedly. He came to Liu Kangbai and whispered anxiously, "Master, young master, he's gone." Liu Kangbai shouted in a low voice, "What nonsense are you talking about? I even toasted him from afar just now. How could he be gone?" "He's really gone. He was still in the dressing room just now. I turned around to look for a bow tie, but when I turned around, young master was already gone." The makeup artist was so anxious that cold sweat started dripping down his forehead. "Bastard." Liu Kangbai's face instantly turned red. He stared at the makeup artist fiercely. "If you dare to lie, I'll throw you into the sea." How could I dare to lie?" The makeup artist was so anxious that he almost cried. "What's going on? Is he performing magic or what? How could he disappear just like that?" A few uncles of the Liu family asked anxiously. "What happened? What happened? Where's Liu Yun?" Liu Kangbai couldn't wait to slap these retarded old fellows to death. He felt that something was amiss, so he ignored his uncle's silly questions and waved his hand to summon a few security guards. "Search every corner of the ship immediately. The ship is on the sea. How could it be possible that the person disappeared just like that? Search now." Liu Kangbai's voice wasn't soft at all. Many people nearby heard it. Immediately, the news spread across the entire venue. The groom had disappeared. The moment before the wedding, the groom couldn't be found. Apart from being a joke, it was also a rare thing. And Zaihuan, who was waiting in the backstage, also heard the news. His face instantly turned ugly as he looked at his daughter, who was wearing a wedding dress and had no expression on her face. He frowned and asked, "Did you play some tricks? Where's Liu Yun?" An Xin raised her head and sneered at her father. "I'm playing tricks? I was forced to come to Japan by you. I've been under surveillance for the past few days, and this is the Liu family's territory. What tricks did I play? He's a living person and a man at that. What can I do to him?" And Zaihuan only said it casually. After asking, he knew that it definitely wasn't related to Anshin. He looked around anxiously. He had been busy for so long in order to marry into the Liu family. Now that the groom had disappeared at such a crucial moment, how could he stand it? Anshin looked calm, but she was actually delighted. She was originally worried that Yang Qing's plan had failed. After all, she was almost brought into the wedding venue, yet there was still no movement. So the problem was with Lu Yin. Although Anshin didn't know why Lu Yin disappeared, she knew that Yang Qing definitely had it all under his control. At this moment, Anshin wasn't worried about whether she would be dragged into the wedding. Instead, she was looking forward to what would happen next. After more than 10 minutes, the entire boat had been searched. However, none of the Lu family security guards could find Lu Yun's shadow. Instead, the entire venue was in a mess. Lu Kongbai's face turned gloomy. He tried calling Lu Yun's phone, but it was turned off. Even Lu Yun's assistant didn't make any sound. Suddenly, one of Lu Kongbai's subordinates seemed to have seen something horrifying. He pointed at the nearest big screen and shouted, "Chairman, look!" Lu Kongbai was annoyed. When he raised his head and looked at the big screen, his eyes widened and he almost fainted from blood rushing to his head. Unbeknownst to everyone, the dozens of huge screens in the entire venue started to play a video, and the main character in this video was the missing Lu Yun. Under the attention of everyone in the venue, Lu Yun was in a dark room on the screen. A searchlight shone on him, highlighting his body clearly. Lu Yun was naked, revealing his white flesh. His four limbs were fixed on a recliner, and he couldn't move at all. On the other hand, a plump Japanese woman, who was covered in bright banshee tattoos and weighed at least 100 kilograms, was also sitting on Lu Yun's thighs naked. What was even worse was that the woman who resembled a man was currently engaged in an intense fertility exercise with Lu Yun. The woman's unrestrained screams filled the entire venue. Regardless of gender, age, or gender, everyone could hear the flirtatious madness and even the brutality of a wild beast within it. The most tragic and funny thing was that Lu Yun seemed to have used up too much of his ejaculation. His originally handsome face was sunken, and his eyes were bloodshot. In a close-up of his face, Lu Yun's eyes were lifeless. His face was sallow, and his lips were pale. He looked half dead, as if he was going to die at any time. Yet, with such a body condition, Lu Yun's dick was exceptionally firm. It was being played with by the woman whose but was like a millstone, yet didn't fall down. This, Lu Kongbai really wanted to smash his own head with a brick. It was as if he had been angered to death and then revived. "Turn it off. Turn it off. What is this? It's all fake. It's all fake." Lu Kongbai scolded his subordinates crazily. "Hurry up and call someone to turn off all the screens." Yes. A subordinate who was in charge of the venue's audio and video equipment hurriedly tried to contact someone, but the signal was suddenly cut off. There was no response at all. "Chairman, it can't be turned off. The people in the control room can't be contacted." That person was about to cry. Wasn't this asking for his life? And Zaihuan, Anshin, and the others who were backstage also saw Lu Yun's wonderful performance on a small screen. And Zaihuan's eyes rolled up, and he was stunned on the spot. Anshin, on the other hand, covered her mouth as she laughed so hard that she almost choked on her breath. The other guests at the scene naturally had nothing to say. They had all entered a state of madness. All kinds of vulgar words and mocking laughter filled the entire tanker. Even some of the Lu family servants couldn't help but laugh at the image on the screen. On the screen, Lu Yun seemed to have reached his climax again. His eyes rolled up, and he was foaming at the mouth. Then, he fainted on the screen. However, the fat woman on top of him was scolding Lu Yun in Japanese and slapping his face, trying to make him continue to have sex with her. Lu Kongbai already had difficulty breathing. He held his chest, pointed at his son on the screen, and murmured, unfilial son, bastard, are you trying to anger me to death?" However, before Lu Kongbai could continue scolding them, a bodyguard ran in hurriedly and reported while gasping for breath. "Bad news. Bad news. Chairman, a guided missile destroyer is approaching from the sea. It's pointing at our back, and it's sending a signal saying that it's going to launch a missile at us." Lu Kongbai's eyes rolled up, and with a kick, he fainted on the spot. Chapter 338. As Lu Kongbai fainted, Lu Yun's explosive performance also came to an end on the screen in the hall. The screen turned black again. However, the hundreds of guests in the venue could not remain quiet. News that the cruise ship had been targeted by a destroyer began to spread in all directions. At this moment, regardless of whether they were men or women, young or old, they couldn't care less about the wedding. They all ignored the Liu family's security and rushed out of the banquet hall, arriving at the top deck of the cruise ship. At this moment, the pale sunlight shone on the vast ocean. The cold wind was raging, and the waves were surging. The Liu family's cruise ship had already slowed down and was moving forward slowly. Behind it, there was indeed a smaller warship following it. On the silver-gray guided missile destroyer, there was an eye-catching flag that was fluttering in the wind. From afar, it could be seen that it was actually a flag with a skull on it. Some people might not even see such an ancient flag even once in their lives. However, even if they hadn't seen it before, they knew what it represented. Pirates. Pirates had also kept up with the times. They actually came to rob with an advanced guided missile destroyer. The guests looked at the main cannons, warheads, and various missile launchers on the ship. Most of their faces turned pale, and their legs trembled. If any of the cannons were to hit the ship, a large number of people would die. What's worse was that their ship was a cruise ship. It didn't have any defensive measures or means of counterattack. What was even more depressing was that the freaking ship stopped. The guests started fleeing in all directions. The scene was extremely chaotic. Some people even started to consider whether they should run to the lifeboats and escape from the cruise ship. At this moment, Liu Kangbai, who was saved by his personal doctor, walked out of the cabin and onto the deck. He took a megaphone and shouted, "Everyone be quiet. Don't panic." Liu Kangbai's face turned green. He was extremely furious. This was obviously a trap set up by someone, and it wasn't an ordinary person. To be able to capture Liu Yun without a sound, arrange everything in such a way that it was impossible to defend against, and even threaten a pirate ship at this moment, this was definitely not an ordinary person. However, Liu Kangbai was also someone who had experienced many things. After thinking for a long time, he knew that he had to calm down. Otherwise, if he was in a mess, the guests would definitely be running around like headless flies. As for Anshin, she was pulled to a corner by her father and Zaihuan. And Zaihuan nervously looked at the destroyer behind them, then at Liu Kangbai. His face was covered in dirt, and he didn't know what to do. Anshin had already taken off her wedding dress. She put on a coat and walked out of the cabin. She was not nervous at all. She was just curious. How did Yang Cheng bring a warship here? This was too exaggerated. Everyone, listen to me. There is no need to be afraid. Even if it was a pirate ship, there was only one. I've already sent someone to contact the Japanese self-defense forces at Ishikari Bay. As soon as they receive the news, they will immediately come to support. We are in their territorial waters. They will definitely come to rescue us. At that time, the pirates will be doomed. Liu Kangbai shouted. After hearing Liu Kangbai's words, the guests finally quietened down. They whispered to each other and nodded. They felt that what Liu Kangbai said made sense. Japan couldn't possibly allow pirates to wreak havoc in their territorial waters, right? At this moment, a male assistant that Liu Kangbai sent to contact the Japanese self-defense forces ran over. Liu Kangbai laughed and said, "Look, everyone, there's a reply so quickly." Unexpectedly, as soon as Liu Kangbai finished laughing, the man cried and shouted, Chairman, bad news. I don't know what happened to our ship, but it has already left Ishikari Bay and entered the international waters. The Japanese self-defense forces scanned the area with their radar and said that this place isn't under their jurisdiction. Boom! The scene turned chaotic again. The guests were shocked. The glimmer of hope that just rose was shattered again. According to international law, around 22 kilometers away from the mainland belonged to the non-territorial waters. For an island country like Japan, it was indeed a matter of a blink of an eye for a cruise ship to enter the international waters. Once it entered the international waters, it would be unclear whether the law was illegal or not. Liu Kangbai scolded angrily. Don't they care about humanitarianism? We've run into pirates. Pirates! There are hundreds of people on our ship under the threat of gunfire. The man said with a crying face, Chairman, you know that Japan's military is restricted by the U.S. Without the U.S.'s approval, they wouldn't dare to send their troops into the international waters. Plus, we aren't Japanese, we are all Hua-Xia people. Japan asked us to contact the Hua-Xia Navy, son of a B***TCH Japanese. Liu Kangbai cursed. Then, he thought of something and asked, "Where's the captain? Where's the captain? Why did he drive the ship into the international waters?" The male assistant said helplessly, "Chairman, I forgot to tell you. I just received news that the captain and the crew members are all gone. We can't contact them at all." "What?" Liu Kangbai's leg softened. He only didn't fall down because of the support from the two bodyguards behind him. He said with a trembling voice, That means, yes, our ship can't move now." The male assistant's expression was distorted. Liu Kangbai widened his eyes. He felt the world was spinning around him, and he couldn't say a single word anymore. As for the other guests, many women started crying and shouting that they didn't want to die after hearing the news. The situation was far more chaotic than one could imagine. At this moment, the destroyer that had been silent all this while sent a voice signal. The cruise ship's broadcast system was suddenly switched on automatically. A man's deep voice could be heard. He was speaking in English, but it wasn't very authentic. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Don't feel surprised when you hear this voice. I'm the commander of the missile destroyer Hadakes behind you. I'm Balbert Hussein Maekdon. You can call me Captain Maekdon. I'm solemnly announcing the reason why missiles were aimed at the cruise ship that you're on today. The reason is actually very simple. There's only one reason. The father and son from the Liu family did something that made one of my respected friends feel dissatisfied. Now, I'll give my friends on the cruise 5 minutes to make 2 choices. The first choice, you can think of a way to let Mr. Liu Kangbai from the Liu family leave the cruise ship immediately. That way, the missiles that were aimed at him won't hit the cruise ship. As for the second choice, you can be brave and accompany Mr. Liu to die in the sea together. Oh, right. This is the international waters where tiger sharks frequently appear. That kind of shark only needs 2 bites to eat an adult. Perhaps you can see it if you have a chance. All right, I've finished my speech. 5 minutes, countdown starts now. Although Maekdon's English wasn't very good, more than half of the people on the cruise could understand him. Many of them revealed a terrified expression after hearing what he said and stared at Liu Kangbai with hatred in their eyes. Even the subordinates and bodyguards of the Liu family looked at Liu Kangbai with a strange gaze. As for those who didn't understand English, once they heard the translation, they started crying and cursing. However, the target of their cursing wasn't Maekdon, but Liu Kangbai, who brought them such misfortune. Liu Kangbai swallowed his saliva. Looking at the strange gazes of the hundreds of people on the deck, he started to feel guilty. He didn't know who Maekdon was at all, nor did he know who his friend was. However, it was obvious that everything was targeted at the Liu father and son. "Everyone calm down. They're trying to sow discord between us. I'm the owner of this ship. I definitely won't abandon everyone and let everyone fall into danger. You have to believe me. I'll immediately send someone to contact the Navy of our Hua-Xia. That definitely won't dare to launch missiles. They're just scaring us." Liu Kangbai shouted loudly. However, the guests on the deck obviously didn't trust him. In fact, the ruthlessness in their eyes became more and more obvious. At this moment, Anshin, who had been staying in the corner silently, cleared her throat and suddenly said loudly, "It's not about whether you'll abandon us or not. It's about how we should treat you. Should we all die for you? Or should you sacrifice yourself for us all to live?" Liu Kangbai's nerves tightened. He turned around and pointed at Anshin, scolding, "Stupid girl, how can you talk to your elders like this? And Zaihuan, take care of your daughter. We're going to be in-laws. How can you speak so coldly?" Unfortunately, at this time, Zaihuan had already understood the reality of the situation. Although he wanted to marry into the Liu clan, he was about to lose his life. How could he care about these things? Therefore, when he heard Liu Kangbai talking to him, Zaihuan immediately turned his head away, closed his eyes, and pretended that he didn't hear anything. Liu Kangbai's heart turned cold. He knew that the situation was urgent, so he hurriedly ordered the bodyguards beside him Quickly command all the staff to hide in the lower floors of the ship. It'll be safer there for now. We'll wait for the rescue army to arrive." However, after he finished speaking, the bodyguards and the management staff all revealed awkward expressions. They didn't move an inch and didn't react at all, as if they were intentionally unwilling to look at Lu Kangbai. Lu Kangbai's face was as pale as ash. He finally realized that in the face of life and death, no matter how much money he spent to buy people's hearts, it was all starting to crumble. Suddenly, Maekton's voice sounded from the broadcast again. "Dear guests, there's only 3 minutes left. Our missile has already been sent into the launcher. Oh, I forgot to remind you that this is a missile with a nuclear warhead. It's powerful enough to destroy 5 passenger ships. Therefore, when you bid farewell to this world, you shouldn't feel any pain." Once this voice was heard, the deck was instantly filled with commotion. Many guests, especially the young and strong men, directly pounced on Lu Kangbai without caring about anything else. "You old man, are you trying to get all of us killed? You've offended your enemy, yet you're here to hold a wedding. Go to hell. Everyone, quickly throw him into the sea." "Don't throw him into the sea. What if we throw him into the sea? The people there won't be able to see him. Throw him into the lifeboat and let them see him." The group of men shouted one after another, completely ignoring Lu Kangbai's desperate resistance. They lifted Lu Kangbai up and dashed towards the nearest lifeboat. A few bodyguards and servants of the Lu family didn't stop them, tacitly allowing the guests to do so. When they saw Lu Kangbai shouting help at them, they subconsciously turned their backs. Many of them even tore off their uniforms and mixed into the crowd, afraid that they would be hated by the other guests as well. Lu Kangbai watched himself being thrown into the lifeboat. When the rope of the lifeboat was lowered, Lu Kangbai felt as if he was being thrown into hell. "No, don't leave me behind." Finally, Lu Kangbai couldn't care about his face anymore. He cried with tears and snot running down his face. Due to fear, his pants were soaked with his tears. The lifeboat eventually fell into the sea. Lu Kangbai laid on the bow of the lifeboat and shouted for people to pull him up. However, no one cared about him at all. Suddenly, the cruise ship let out a woo-woo sound of steam whistle. It had actually started moving. "Damn it, didn't they say that the captain is missing?" Lu Kangbai cursed, but his curses were covered by the whistle. As the cruise ship moved, huge waves were stirred up. Lu Kangbai's small lifeboat was hit by the waves and was instantly pushed far away from the cruise ship. It was getting harder and harder to reach. Chapter 339. When the guests on the cruise saw that Lu Kangbai had been shaken off, they couldn't care less about why the cruise started moving again. They hurriedly jumped and shouted, hoping to tell the people on the destroyer behind that they had already thrown Lu Kangbai into the sea. Maekton's voice was heard from the broadcast. "I'm very satisfied with everyone's cooperation. Everyone is safe now. The countdown timer for the missile launching system has stopped. The cruise will arrive at the port in about an hour. I hope everyone has a pleasant journey." This news made everyone on the cruise heave a sigh of relief. Everyone, regardless of whether it was the guests, the bodyguards, staff, or servants of the Lu family, all felt lucky that they managed to survive. As for Lu Kangbai, who was on the lifeboat far away, they had already forgotten about him. Scram as far as you can. Don't get yourself implicated. As the atmosphere on the cruise became better, the guests started cursing the father and son of the Lu family loudly. Some of them were discussing who the Lu family had offended, etc. At that moment, a military helicopter suddenly flew up from the destroyer behind them. In less than a minute, it was hovering above the cruise ship. The guests on the cruise were a little afraid. They were worried that the 2 machine guns of the helicopter would spit out bullets, and the ruthless pirates would go back on their words and kill them with guns instead of missiles. "Quickly hide inside," a few people shouted. Only then did the guests react, and they started squeezing into the cabin in a panic. The deck of the cruise was in a mess. As the helicopter lowered its altitude, the loudspeaker on it started speaking. "Miss Anshin and Mr. Nzaihuan, please step forward. The captain is waiting for the 2 of you." The voice spread across the cruise, and the guests immediately fixed their gazes on Nzaihuan and Anshin. who were standing in the corner. Anshin had already expected this, so she wasn't too surprised. On the other hand, Zaihuan was sweating profusely. Could it be that after getting rid of the people from the Liu family, they were going to attack the Yin family? Was it because the two families almost got married, so they were going to deal with them together? And Zaihuan was so regretful that his intestines were going to rot. What kind of sin had he committed? He had gone through so much trouble to marry his daughter, yet he still encountered such a thing? He immediately shouted, "Everyone, don't look at us like this. We aren't relatives yet. We have nothing to do with the Liu family." But how could this group of guests care so much? The other party had just retracted the missile. What if they disobeyed and wanted to launch it again? If I want you to leave, then leave. Hurry up. Are you trying to kill us? Get over there. The helicopter was only about 20 meters away from the deck of the cruise ship. A soft and solid ladder was lowered from above, obviously waiting for the father and daughter to board the helicopter. And Zaihuan didn't know what to do when he saw the group of people glaring at him. Just as he was about to ask his daughter, Anshin, what to do, he saw that Anshin had already ignored him and was walking towards the rope ladder. Anshin, don't go. We'll die if we go. And Zaihuan hurriedly pulled Anshin's hand and said, My dear father, do you think we'll be fine if we stay here? Besides, how do you know we'll die if we go there? Maybe the captain knows us and wants to catch up with us? Anshin looked at her biological father with slight mockery. In the past, she only complained about him, but ever since he forcefully kidnapped her to Japan and forced her to marry Liu Yun, Anshin finally understood her position in her father's heart. A father who used his daughter as a bargaining chip and didn't consider his daughter's feelings, although she couldn't hate him enough to sever the relationship between father and daughter, but obviously, he wasn't worthy of her respect. And Zaihuan's face turned pale and green. Seeing the group of guests around him rushing to tie him up and board the helicopter, he could only follow Anshin with heavy steps to climb the rope ladder. Under the relieved gaze of the group of guests, Anshin and Zaihuan boarded the helicopter one after another. The helicopter didn't stay for long and directly flew back to the missile destroyer behind it. As soon as Zaihuan boarded the helicopter, he felt the atmosphere was different from what he had imagined. Whether it was the white soldier in camouflage uniform who picked them up or the soldier who piloted the helicopter, they all smiled at them and were very friendly. Could it be that they were really acquaintances catching up? And Zaihuan couldn't help but think so, but he couldn't figure it out. Who would be so fierce and still be a pirate? Captain McDon? He didn't know him at all. However, Anshin's face was full of joy. Although she knew that the wonderful wedding mentioned by Yang Cheng would be very special, she didn't expect it to be such a domineering wedding. They even brought a nuclear warhead. This was too exaggerated. While the helicopter was flying, the destroyer had already stopped on the sea, far away from the cruise ship, and was parked alone in the sea. When the helicopter landed on the helipad of the warship, a group of people was already standing on the deck, waiting, and Zaihuan followed behind Anshin and got off the helicopter with an uneasy heart. As soon as they got off the helicopter, and Zaihuan saw his restless daughter, like a happy bird, quickly running to a man opposite her. Her whole body was in the arms of the man, and her two arms wrapped around the man's neck. She actually kissed him passionately in front of everyone, and Zaihuan suddenly froze on the spot, and he didn't care who else was around. He stared at his daughter, flirting with a man in public, and his mind went blank. Yang Cheng was also a little caught off guard. Just as he was about to say something, he saw Anshin, who was wearing a coat and still had her hair in a high bun, with a gust of fragrant wind, jump into his arms like a koala. Her body's center of gravity hung on his body. The cold lips and the hot tongue made Yang Cheng feel comfortable and excited as he kissed her generously. His two big hands touched Anshin's buttocks, and he squeezed them hard, which made the beauty even more excited. Yang Cheng could feel Anshin's ecstasy and turbulent love from the kiss. It was a kind of rich atmosphere full of gratitude and intoxication, which made Yang Cheng enjoy it very much. Baby, let's stop kissing here first. We can't do exercise on the deck. Yang Cheng touched Anshin's white face and said with a smile. Anshin's charming face was crimson. She was also too excited. When she got off the plane and saw Yang Chung, it was as if he was the only figure in the world. She didn't think too much and rushed to kiss Yang Chung. At this moment, Anshin realized that there were a few men and women with different appearances standing behind Yang Chung. She shyly separated from Yang Chung and nodded to those people. Only then did Zaihuan see clearly who his daughter was hugging. That young man, wearing a simple black jacket and light-colored trousers, could only be considered average. Wasn't he the man who stayed overnight with Anshin in the hotel and was later arrested and taken to the police station? And Zaihuan's heart shook. That day, he thought that this was just an ordinary arrogant young man, but now it seemed that it was completely not the case. Could it be that everything that happened today was orchestrated by him? Then who was he? Yang Chung half-hugged Anshin's soft waist and turned around to introduce the people around him to Anshin. However, he spoke in English. After all, these people came from all over the world. As an international flight attendant, Anshin naturally knew many foreign languages. This red-haired ghost is called Sauron. You can call him Red Hair. The red-haired Sauron was expressionless, but he sincerely nodded to Anshin. For this steel-like man, bowing his neck was already the greatest respect. This bald fatty is Maekdan. This ship was stolen by his subordinates, and we'll have to return it later, Yang Chun said as he pointed at Maekdan, who was grinning. Maekdan, who had a cigar in his mouth, looked unhappy when he heard this. He put down the cigar and said, Ming, oh no, Yang, I think it's better if you say borrow. The Hattakes is too small. There's no need to keep stealing it back. Our Mossad wants cruisers at the very least. We don't want junk like destroyers, even if you give it to us. We're just using it temporarily. Anyway, the self-defense forces didn't say anything against it. They didn't find out, Sauron added. Yang Chung ignored them and continued to point at a tall, blonde, and handsome white man. The man had a gold, coin-like object hanging from his earring. It was quite strange. This guy is called Edward. He's the type who always looks for trouble. He's also very stingy. He flew all the way here from England just to freeload. You can completely ignore him. Yang Chung said. Edward didn't care at all. He smiled very gentlemanly and said, Miss Anshin, I don't have a gift for you since we first met. I'll definitely bring you a gift next time. Humph. After hearing Edward's words, Jane, who hadn't been introduced yet, rolled her eyes at him. Cousin Edward, you've already owed me a birthday gift for 7 years. Since you can't bear to give me a gift, don't always say that you want to give me something. After that, Jane ignored Edward's awkward expression and smiled at Anshin. This is the first time we've met. You can call me Jane. Anshin smiled and greeted the four of them. Finally, she took a few more glances at Jane. This young Western woman was dressed casually, but it couldn't hide her elegant temperament. In particular, her beautiful blue gem-like eyes revealed wisdom. She was definitely not an ordinary character. Obviously, in the eyes of women, Jane was an enchanting beauty that made people jealous. What was her relationship with Yang Chung? Chapter 340. After a brief chat, Yang Chung asked Maekdan to sail the Hattakes to a port. The group of people got off the ship, and Maekdan's subordinates would send the destroyer back to the self-defense forces. When she saw the Japanese flag raised on the Hattakes missile destroyer, Anshin opened her mouth. She couldn't believe that it was really a warship stolen from the Japanese self-defense forces. And Zaihuan didn't say a word because he could vaguely feel that the people around Yang Chung were all arrogant and confident at the same time. However, this group of people had a sense of submission to Yang Chung from the bottom of their hearts, which made Zaihuan more and more unable to understand Yang Chung. Anshin, on the other hand, wouldn't think so much. Although she gradually understood that Yang Cheng's background was unfathomable, she was very considerate and didn't ask anything. Obviously, she knew that Yang Cheng wouldn't be willing to explain too much. She only needed to know that the man beside her was the one she loved. As a holy land for leisure and holidays, Hokkaido was even more picturesque in winter. The verdant forest was covered with white snow, and at the foot of the mountain was a small town with a simple Japanese style. Yang Chung thought of something and asked Edward, Edward, Ron didn't come with you? Edward smiled and said, Ron said he was old and Hokkaido was too cold. He would rather hide in the Mediterranean Sea and bask in the sun. He asked me to convey his apologies to you. And at the same time, I hope that you can meet him before he goes to heaven to meet the Lord and take back the things you left with him. Yang Cheng said helplessly, he's still so lazy. Not really. At least Ron has already arranged for you to eat, drink, and play in Hokkaido, Edward said. Speaking of which, I'm really hungry. Where are we going? MacDon asked. After the group got off the ship, they followed Edward to the small town by the sea, but they didn't know where to stay. I bought a resort here. It has the purest Japanese Hokkaido leisure facilities and food. I'll entertain everyone this time. Jane glanced at Edward in disbelief. Cousin, how much did you take from Ron? Edward looked embarrassed and coughed a few times. Jane, my honorable sister, can't you save me some face? You've said it before, for the sake of money. I don't care about face or anything else. Jane smiled playfully. Edward smiled awkwardly, but did not refute. As Anshin listened to the laughter of the crowd, she felt much more relaxed. This group of people obviously had strong backgrounds, but in her eyes, they were much more adorable than many small characters. Anshin finally understood why Yang Cheng always had an indifferent attitude. Even the people around him could steal the warships of the Japanese self-defense forces at will, let alone Yang Cheng himself. Standing at such a high position, the matters of the Liu family and the Yin family were really a mess. They were insignificant and not worth mentioning at all. When she thought about how she got to know such a person in a bar, and how they hugged each other after meeting for 3 times, Anshin suddenly felt that fate still existed. Yang Cheng, how are the 2 people from the Liu family now? Anshin asked curiously. Yang Cheng smiled mysteriously. They should be very exciting. In the high seas, it was boundless and boundless seawater. A small lifeboat was floating on the sea. 2 men, one old and one young, were sitting on the boat. They were Liu Kongbai, who was thrown off, and Liu Yun, who was naked and only had a thin towel over him, was just thrown onto the lifeboat. At first, when Liu Kongbai was thrown into the middle of the sea, he shouted for help for a long time. Then, a small yacht finally appeared. Unexpectedly, it was the people from Yamaguchi-gumi who escorted Liu Yun over. Liu Kongbai still wanted to shout for help, but he saw his son, who was already completely withered, being thrown onto the lifeboat by the people from Yamaguchi-gumi. Not only that, the people from Yamaguchi-gumi completely ignored Liu Kongbai's cry for help. They took out a few big plastic barrels from the yacht, opened the barrels, and threw them around the lifeboat. Liu Kongbai was shocked to see the scarlet liquid flowing out from the barrels and gradually spreading in the seawater. Then, the people from Yamaguchi-gumi left with a big smile. Liu Kongbai didn't understand what was going on. He pounced in front of Liu Yun and flipped him over to take a look. Liu Yun's eyes were deeply sunken. His face was pale, and his entire body was filled with whipping marks. What was more disgusting was that the thing below Liu Yun was already unrecognizable. Liu Kongbai recalled the scene of Liu Yun being played by the fat Japanese woman on the yacht. He knew that Liu Yun must have been tortured to the point that he was completely disabled. Liu Yun's body was extremely weak. When he regained some consciousness, he called out, "Dad." Then, he couldn't speak anymore. When Liu Kongbai saw his son, who was extremely proud of himself, suddenly in such a state, he felt hatred and sadness. However, he didn't know what to do. What annoyed him the most was that he didn't know who he had offended. Therefore, Liu Kongbai pushed the blame onto Liu Yun and scolded, "You unfilial son, it's all your fault for not doing anything good. After offending such a powerful person, how are we going to go back? There's no food or water on this boat. Are we going to starve to death or freeze to death?" Liu Yun rolled his eyes, but he couldn't say a word. At this moment, some triangular fins suddenly appeared on the surface of the sea, and the seawater became extremely turbulent. Liu Kongbai was stunned at first. Then he turned pale with fright. "Aren't these sharks?" When he thought of what Captain MacDon said on the boat, tiger sharks frequently appeared here. That's right. The water barrels that those people threw just now were obviously filled with fresh blood. They purposely used fresh blood to lure the tiger sharks here. After a group of tiger sharks discovered the small lifeboat, They immediately started circling around it. Obviously, they were interested in the fresh blood on the lifeboat. Lu Kangbai trembled in fear, but he didn't know what to do. At this moment, some of the tiger sharks finally couldn't wait any longer. They used their heads and tails to slap the lifeboat. The lifeboat shook violently. Lu Kangbai's face turned pale. Hearing the sound of the waves caused by the tiger sharks, he felt as if his soul had left his body. Seeing that the lifeboat was about to capsize, a hint of fierceness flashed across Lu Kangbai's eyes. He pounced towards Lu Yun, who was lying on the ground, and carried him up. Then, he said coldly, "Son, in order for your father to live, you should sacrifice yourself. I've raised you for more than 20 years. Since you're already like this, living is also a kind of torture. Don't worry, when I find my enemies in the future, I'll take revenge for you." After he finished speaking, Lu Kangbai pushed Lu Yun out of the lifeboat and into the sea resolutely. Lu Yun's gaze finally stopped on his father's hideous face. The heart-wrenching and bone-deep hatred on his face made Lu Kangbai shiver. Very soon, Lu Yun, who had fallen into the water, became the target of the tiger sharks. They started biting each other crazily. The sharp white teeth of the tiger sharks opened their bloody mouths. Lu Yun, who had no strength to resist, was instantly bitten off his head. Seeing that his son was gone just like that, Lu Kangbai didn't have the time to be sad, regretful, or sad. His thoughts had entered a state of madness. Lu Kangbai clenched his teeth. He knew that this method could only temporarily attract the attention of the tiger sharks. He still had to leave this bloody area as soon as possible. Therefore, he picked up the oars on the lifeboat and started rowing with all his might. However, Lu Kangbai underestimated the number of tiger sharks and the speed at which they ate humans. Lu Yun's bone dregs were completely devoured in less than 10 seconds. Even more blood drifted into the ocean, causing the tiger sharks' wild cells to wreak havoc even more. A group of tiger sharks once again charged towards the lifeboats with bloodshot eyes. The strength of the tiger sharks wasn't something that a small lifeboat could withstand. After a few attacks, the lifeboat finally capsized. No, Lu Kangbai only let out a whimper. Then he didn't make any other sound. The sea regained its calmness, leaving only an upside-down lifeboat floating in the sea. Chapter 341. The resort that Edward bought was not big. It was located at the edge of an unnamed mountain range. It was a group of older buildings with an antique charm. The Japanese palace-style garden design made people who walked in feel a peaceful atmosphere. Podocarpus decorated the quiet corners, and triangular plum blossoms stood in the wind. As they walked past a pool in the center of the resort, and Zai Huan, who had been carefully observing his surroundings, suddenly saw a stone tablet standing in the middle of the pool. There were no words on the stone tablet, only a pattern that looked like an emblem. It was a picture of 5 arrows tied together, but all of them had been broken. It looked a bit like a family crest, and Zai Huan vaguely felt like he had seen this emblem somewhere before, but he could not remember which family it was. Before he could think about it, the group had already walked to the Japanese barbecue restaurant. Although the Sparrow was small, it had all the essentials. Under the guidance of a woman in a kimono, the group came to the VIP dining room and enjoyed the meticulously prepared lunch. The main dish for lunch was Japanese Kobe beef. The traditional cooking made the beef melt in the mouth. It was like the best foie gras in France. And Zai Huan was nervous from the moment he entered the restaurant because there were other guests in the resort. Seeing a man like him following behind a group of people, he felt out of place. No one talked to him along the way, which made Zai Huan feel even more awkward. Until now, and Zai Huan sat at the end of the table. He took a bite and looked at the others present, as if he was worried that the food was poisoned. He ate the dishes that cost a few thousand huaxia dollars, and he had no appetite at all. Anshin sat beside Yang Cheng. She had not eaten or drunk since early in the morning. She was already starving. After eating a large piece of steak, she finished 2 grilled eels and drank 2 bowls of miso soup to quench her thirst. "Miss Anshin, how do you like the taste?" Edward asked with a smile. Anshin nodded. "The taste is very good. I was too hungry, so I ate a little faster." "Hee hee, no problem. Miss Anshin, do you need more steak?" If you do, I can get someone to send it in. Edward was very attentive. Anshin hurriedly waved his hand. That's enough. If you eat any more, you'll get fat. Rubbing her already bulging belly, Anshin's bright eyes glanced at Yang Chung, who was calmly eating his steak. My dear, you still haven't told me what happened today. Why did Lu Yun suddenly become like this when he was fine this morning? Yang Chung smiled and was about to explain when someone knocked on the door of the dining room. After the wooden door was pulled open, a man with green bean-like eyes walked in. It was the Yamaguchi Gumi's high bureau who had captured Lu Yun that day. Ingwu Lang knelt on the ground and prostrated himself in front of Yang Chung. He said solemnly, Your Excellency, the Lu family's father and son have been executed. Do you have any other orders? Yang Chung replied casually, You're in charge of Lu Yun's matter, right? Yes, Your Excellency, Ingwu replied. Change into Lu Yun's appearance, Yang Chung said. Ingwu Lang was stunned for a moment, but he still turned his head away without hesitation. When he turned his head again, his face had completely changed. He had indeed become exactly the same as Lu Yun. Everyone present, except for Yang Chung and Jane, had a bewildered look on their faces. Anshin and Zaihuan were even more dumbfounded. After Ingwu Lang changed back to his original appearance and walked out of the door, Yang Chung then explained, Although the Japanese ninja jinjutsu are all illusions, there are still some rare and interesting things. The transfiguration technique is indeed very advanced. That Ingwu Lang only had a small achievement in the transfiguration technique. The truly powerful transfiguration technique can completely pass off the fake as the real one. Anshin came to a realization. No wonder that Lu Yun didn't seem right this morning. His gaze was different, and his speech was a little more restrained. So he was impersonated. Ingwu Lang was the chief commander of this cruise incident. He transformed into Lu Yun's appearance and changed back to his original appearance before the wedding. He mixed in with the guests and commanded the rest of the Yamaguchi Gumi's underlings to control the cruise. Everything seemed easy and efficient, and Zaihuan, who was sitting at the end, wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. This was too terrifying. No wonder the Lu family's father and son didn't even know how they died. Even the legendary transfiguration technique had appeared. It was too easy to control crews. Fighting with this group of people was like an old man with arsenic. He was courting death. Chairman and Yang Chung suddenly looked at Zaihuan, but he didn't call him uncle. This was because Yang Chung didn't think that this man was worthy to be his elder. If he wasn't Anshin's biological father, he wouldn't mind killing him. And Zaihuan's body quivered. He smiled apologetically and replied, Mr. Yang, is there anything? Now that the Lu family's father and son are no longer in this world, may I ask, what plans do you have next? Yang Chung asked with a smile while cutting the beef on the plate. And Zaihuan swallowed his saliva and smiled awkwardly. I don't know. Then do you still want to help your daughter, Anshin, find a man for her? Yang Chung looked at Zaihuan with a playful gaze, and Zaihuan only felt his hands and feet turn cold. He broke out in a cold sweat. No, and Anshin's future is her own. The person she likes, I think it's good, it's definitely good. Seeing Zaihuan wagging his tail and begging for pity, the people around him revealed a look of disdain. Although Anshin's hatred was vented, she still felt that her father was a bit pitiful. Who didn't want to climb higher? Who didn't have selfish motives? It could only be said that her father's selfishness had blinded too much of his conscience. Yang Qing also didn't want to embarrass Anshin too much, so he didn't continue to ridicule Zaihuan. He directly said, Previously, you wanted to marry Anshin to Lu Yun, most likely for the Lu family support, so that the Yin family could be promoted from a second-rate family to a first-rate family in Zhonghai. But Anshin was my woman, and you and the Lu family still wanted to make things difficult for her, so I couldn't just stand by and watch. Lu Yun once threatened me, saying that he would make me lose everything. I returned this boast back to him, and Zaihuan's heart jumped when he heard this. So Lu Yun had said this to Yang Chung. No wonder he was so embarrassed even when he died. But you're Anshin's biological father after all. Although I don't have a good impression of you. As the saying goes, don't let goodies flow to outsiders. Since you like the Liu family's assets so much, then I will hand over the Liu family's Jade Clouds Corporation to you. How about it? Yang Cheng said casually, and Zaihuan almost fainted from excitement. Jade Clouds Corporation to me? What does that mean? Even Anqin looked at Yang Cheng in surprise. She didn't expect Yang Cheng to have such an idea, but could he really do it? Yang Cheng continued, the Liu father and son are no longer in this world. Not even their bones and dregs are left. The current Liu family of Zhonghai only has a few small shareholders who don't have any shares. They exist in name only. However, because the news of the Liu father and son's death can't be confirmed, if the Liu father and son return to Zhonghai in a few days, no one could say anything. But they are already, and Zaihuan was about to say something, but he suddenly remembered. Disguise. It was the disguise. Yang Cheng knew that Zaihuan had already guessed it, so he nodded. I will send someone to disguise as the Liu father and son to accompany you back to Zhonghai. That way, the transfer of Jade Cloud Corporation's shares can be completed smoothly. At that time, you'll be the sole leader of the Jade Clouds Corporation and the family's enterprise. I think that kind of result is much more comfortable than attaching yourself to the Liu family. And Zaihuan had already seen an unprecedented grand blueprint. If it was really as Yang Cheng said, the family would become an existence that could rival the Yuan family in terms of economy. Anqin also looked at Yang Cheng in surprise. She didn't expect Yang Cheng to be so willing to help her father. But thinking about it, it wasn't to help her father, but only for her. Otherwise, Yang Cheng could kill Zaihuan in the blink of an eye. Thinking of this, Anqin's eyes became even more affectionate. She didn't care much about the rise and fall of the family since she was young. What she cared about was Yang Cheng's love for her. But Yang Cheng changed the topic and said, Jade Clouds is a huge business empire after all. If you want to take over, you can't just rely on two fake Liu father and son to succeed. I think you should understand this point. And Zaihuan was no longer in the mood to eat. He put down his knife and fork, nodded and said yes. Not to mention other things, such a big change is very likely to make the hearts of the people below unsteady. Moreover, the Liu family has been operating for so many years, and there are many potential business secrets that we don't know. This will seriously affect the future development of the group. Yang Cheng gave Edward, who was leisurely enjoying his beef, a look. Edward understood and clapped his hands. A blonde office girl walked in from outside and handed a thick black leather-wrapped document to Zaihuan. Take a look at this document. As long as you sign it, my friend Edward will help you solve all your problems. You only need to wait for the money. Yang Cheng said, and Zaihuan nervously looked at the mysterious Edward and then looked at the document in his hand. On the leather surface of the document, it was the pattern that he saw on the stone tablet in the pool, the family crest. At this moment, the crest totem of the 5 broken arrows was especially clear. And Zaihuan's mind suddenly flashed. Yes, it's the Rothschild family. Almost in an instant, and Zaihuan's whole body stiffened like a stone statue, and he even forgot to breathe. Chapter 342. If a successful entrepreneur didn't know about the Rothschild family, it would be like a soldier not knowing about Napoleon or a scientist not knowing about Einstein. It was the same ridiculous thing. This family that grew up during the French Revolution had become a legend in the world's financial history. They never appeared in a high-profile manner, but they were everywhere. Their businesses were never listed, so they didn't need to declare their assets. In fact, since the 80s, many historical books and writings about the Rothschild family mysteriously disappeared. It was easy for people to deduce that this had something to do with the Rothschild family's behind-the-scenes operation. To this day, all kinds of news about the Rothschild family, no matter if it was positive or negative, couldn't be confirmed. Many people thought that after World War II and the Cold War, a large amount of the Rothschild family's assets were destroyed. But how could the true strength of this family that rose in the war be so easily guessed? Moreover, after hundreds of generations of operation, the family's businesses had spread across the world, so it was unknown how much potential they had. And Zaihuan's hands were almost trembling as he flipped through the document. After reading the general content, and Zaihuan finally understood what Yang Cheng meant. Because the Rothschild family's businesses weren't allowed to be listed, so if Edward, a direct descendant of the family, wanted to send someone to help Zaihuan take over Baiyun, he wouldn't appear as the leader of Baiyun. He would only help Zaihuan settle the business issues behind the scenes. But at the same time, he would have to pay half of Baiyun Corporation's profits. This was a huge number for Zaihuan, but as long as the Rothschild family was willing to help, then did he have to worry about Baiyun's future? Even if he could only take half of the profits, it would still be much better than Baiyun in the past. When Zaihuan anxiously wanted to take out a pen to sign, Yang Cheng and Edward looked at each other and smiled. This matter had finally come to a successful conclusion. After Zaihuan signed the consent document, Edward walked up and shook hands with the cowering Zaihuan. Mr. In Huaxia, our family doesn't have many assets. I hope our cooperation will be a good start. Edward appeared dignified in the face of serious work, and Zaihuan's expression was still very stiff. Mr. Edward, I know the power of your family, but I'm worried that there will be outsiders infiltrating the company, and it will cause the other shareholders to have rebellious thoughts. Mr. In, do you know our family's teachings? Edward asked strangely, and Zaihuan shook his head. Once money makes a sound, bad words stop abruptly. Edward smiled brightly. The following matters were much easier to handle. After asking for Zaihuan's opinion, Zaihuan decided to immediately return to Zhonghai. He did not intend to stay in Hokkaido for a few more days to relax. After all, once many domestic guests returned to Zhonghai, they would definitely hype up the Liu family's wedding. If the Liu family's father and son returned to Zhonghai earlier, the J Clouds group would not be in such a mess. Yang Cheng didn't really care about Zaihuan's choice. He only asked if Anshin wanted to go back early as well. Without hesitation, Anshin decided to stay in Hokkaido for a few more days. Obviously, she was not willing to take the same flight back to Zhonghai as her father. This had already left a shadow in her heart. Edward arranged for 2 assistants to follow Zaihuan back to Zhonghai as his direct contact in the future. Yang Cheng asked Hanya to send 2 clever members of Yamada's sect to pretend to be the Liu family's father and son. When the Liu family's father and son died in an accident, the 2 ninjas would then return to Japan. Before sending Zaihuan off, Zaihuan hesitated for a moment. He walked up to Yang Cheng with a flattering smile and said, Mr. Yang, I don't know if you can let me talk to my daughter for a while. Yang Cheng smiled. Of course. You are Anshin's father, and I am not a robber. Why can't I let you 2 talk? In his heart, Zaihuan said, You are much more tyrannical than a robber. However, the smile on his face became more and more flattering. Pulling the indifferent Anshin to a secluded corner, Zaihuan said proudly, My precious daughter, I am very satisfied with the son-in-law you found for me. I and Zaihuan can finally stand out. The Yin family will be the top family in Zhonghai in the future. Looking at her father's face, Anshin felt annoyed. Previously, he asked her to marry Liu Yun for the sake of the Yin family and his reputation. Now that she was with Yang Cheng, he was still thinking about his reputation and his career. However, he didn't say a word to express his blessings or expectations for her future. Anshin's delicate and pretty face didn't show any abnormalities, but her heart was bleak and bleak. Is this all you want to say to me? My dear father. Zaihuan didn't feel anything strange at all. He continued to smile and said, When are you and Yang Cheng getting married? Anshin smiled mockingly. Don't you know that Yang Cheng has a wife? Your daughter is just a mistress, a mistress. Zaihuan was stunned for a moment. He frowned and thought for a while. Then, he relaxed his brows and said with a smile, Be a mistress, then. For a man as capable as him, it is normal for him to have multiple wives and concubines. Since he treats you so well, you won't be at a disadvantage. Don't throw a tantrum at him. Go along with him and serve him well. Your father, will also benefit from it. Do you understand? Anshin clenched her hands in a fist so tightly that her knuckles turned white. She sneered and said, Is this all you want to say? More or less. I am just afraid that you will anger him. He doesn't seem like a good person. Zaihuan sighed. Then he suddenly said, My daughter, My good daughter, do you think it is possible for you to snatch the position of Yang Cheng's wife? Do you want to be his real wife? Maybe if he likes you to the point of being infatuated with you, you would really be willing to divorce you? Enough. Anshin could no longer listen. She suppressed her anger and said, I am his lover because I love him. When I thought that he had nothing, I thought of him in my heart. It is not because he can bring glory and wealth to your family and give you face that I am willing to stay by his side and be a mistress. But it is also true that people like you cannot understand what true feelings are. Go back and behave yourself in the future. If you do anything wrong, even if Yang Cheng wants to kill you, I will not even frown. Anshin turned around angrily and left, leaving Zaihuan stunned on the spot with a puzzled look on his face. For the next 3 days, everyone stayed in the resort and could be considered to be free and unfettered. Yang Cheng brought Anshin to the beach to fish and go skiing. Anshin didn't know how to ski, but she liked to let Yang Cheng carry her on his back and glide quickly through the forest. At night, the two of them, who were deeply in love with each other, were naturally entangled and glued to each other. Yang Cheng finally understood what it meant to be born with a seductive bone. Anshin's stamina and desire in bed were definitely one of the best among all the women he had seen in his life. During the day, she would boldly request to come once or twice when she was free, and at night, she would fight until late at night before she was willing to sleep soundly. If it wasn't for his special physique, ordinary men would not be able to handle this charming and beautiful woman. In fact, Anshin also had her own reasons. After all, although she and Yang Cheng knew each other's feelings, their true understanding was still too little. Now that she had decided to be with this man for a lifetime, Anshin also began to plan how to fight for points for herself. Even if she was a mistress, she had to be a fighter among mistresses, especially when there was a Western beauty like Jane next to her. It was really difficult for Anshin. What if more beautiful women wanted to compete with her for men in the future, and she fell out of favor? Anshin also clearly knew that although her appearance and figure were outstanding, there was still a gap between her and a woman like Jane, whose appearance and temperament could be said to be extreme. Therefore, how to let Yang Cheng fall in love with her was the most important thing for Anshin to consider. After thinking about it, only by letting go of her inner reserve and completely playing the role of seductress in front of men was the most suitable. Yang Cheng also vaguely guessed Anshin's intention. He couldn't help but think of the imperial concubines in the harem of the ancient emperors. The concubines fought for favor, probably just like Anshin's mentality. However, the empress of the ancient emperors at least let the emperor sleep with them. His sister Lin, since answering his call that day, had never answered the phone again, let alone open the door for him to be intimate with her. Yang Cheng wondered if he should take a tough attitude when returning home. No matter what, he should first execute her on the spot and use a steel gun to submit to the rose. But after thinking about it, with Lin Ruashi's stubborn mind and stubborn temper, she might directly hit the wall and die. Thinking about it, he broke into a cold sweat and decisively gave up. The leisurely holiday was finally over. Yang Cheng and Anshin still had to return to China for the Spring Festival, so they had to go to the airport in the morning of the 4th day. The night before departure, in Jane's luxury suite in the resort, Edward, as her cousin, sat on the sofa, facing Jane, who was standing in front of the window and looking at the night sky. Jane's long amber hair seemed to have just been washed. It was radiant like the most precious silk. Edward held a glass of captivating red Lafite in his hand, and after taking 2 sips, he said, Jane, for the past 3 days, Yang Cheng has been with Miss Anshin. This is a bad sign for you. This is my business. I've already said that how I get along with Yang Cheng is up to me, Jane said calmly. Edward shook his head. The problem is, you didn't even talk to Yang Cheng. How can this promote your relationship? One day, you won't be able to win his heart in time. I'm his doctor. He can't leave me, Anshin said. But if his illness doesn't flare up, then he can leave you. Edward's tone was a little heavier. My dear sister, you should know that the family is paying attention to you. What I've done for the family has exceeded most of the family members. Do I have to treat my own life as a mission to complete? Edward narrowed his eyes, and a flash of light flashed, but then he sighed. Jane, you should be very clear. In our Rothschild family, there are almost more than 30 couples who are close relatives within the family. Our noble bloodline has gradually deteriorated. We need a brand new, absolutely noble blood to mix into our family. You are our proudest female member, and Yang Chung will be an important chip to stabilize our family's position in the world. Only by letting him have a substantial relationship with our family can he be counted as one of us. We can also get deterrence from other families from him. You should be very clear about this. The expectations of the elders for you are much greater than you can imagine. Edward. Jane turned around and looked at her cousin with a gaze as sharp as a knife. As Yang Chen's friend, do you only want to make use of his influence? Of course not. But other than being his friend, I'm also an honorable member of the Rothschild family. At the same time, I'm also an elder brother who wants my sister to be happy. Edward said seriously, Jane, don't be afraid. This is not like you. Since you love him, you should say it. Even if he already has Persephone, the queen of the underworld, and other lovers, it doesn't mean that you can't get his love at the same time. Jane's face was as calm as water, and she didn't say a word. After a long time, she said faintly, Edward, I'm tired. You can go. Edward sighed, drank the wine in one gulp, got up, and left the room. Chapter 343. The flight back to Zhonghai was a direct one. This time, Yang Chung could finally book business class. After all, he booked it himself and not the company. This was the second time he took a flight with Anshin. But this time, Anshin wasn't a flight attendant, but a lazy cat sleeping in his arms, ignoring the strange looks around her. Yang Chung looked at the sumptuous business class food and could only shake his head and sigh. Because Anshin was lying on him, he didn't even have the time to eat. If Yang Cheng's thoughts were known by the surrounding male passengers, they would probably be more than happy to exchange their lunch with Yang Chung. After a few hours, they returned to Zhonghai. Because of the time difference, it was only afternoon. Neither of them had any luggage. When they arrived at the exit of the airport, Yang Chung had to take a taxi to pick up his car because he took the bus to the airport. So he asked Anshin, why don't you take a taxi with me, and I'll drive you back? Anshin shook her head. No, it's not like I don't have the ability to take care of myself. I know you've been hungry for the whole afternoon on the plane. You should go back and eat something. So you're awake. You deserve a spanking, Yang Chung said gloomily. Anshin pouted. It's time to separate. I don't know when you're willing to play with me. Of course, I want to lie on your body for a while. Yang Chung was speechless. He almost had the urge to take this girl home, but it would obviously cause a certain iceberg to explode, so he gave up. After hugging Anshin affectionately, the two of them left the airport in two separate taxis. Yang Chung came to the parking lot of Yu Lei International. After picking up his car, he went straight to the villa in Dragon Garden. He didn't feel much of the airport before, but now that he was really on the road home, Yang Chung had an urge to go home. This feeling of longing and happiness was so strong that it made Yang Chung step on the gas pedal especially hard. Yang Chung finally felt that he really regarded that place as his home. In other words, he had subconsciously treated the two women at home as his own family. More than half a month ago, he had forced himself to ask Lin Ruashi for a divorce, but now Yang Chung had no such thoughts at all. During the trip to Japan, when he killed the fake 17, Yang Chung finally realized that the dead could not be revived. Jane's slap and her tears of anger made him understand that he shouldn't be obsessed with the sadness of the past. In her heart, since it was difficult to let go of that person, why should she give up for an unpredictable future? However, the problem in front of him was also very obvious. How could he take back his words and appease Lin Ruashi's anger? That girl obviously wouldn't shed a tear until she saw the coffin. She was stubborn and would walk down the dark road to the end. It seemed that it would be even more difficult for her to accept him than in the past. There were so many calls, but she didn't answer any of them. Didn't that mean that she wanted to cut off all contact with him? Thinking about these headache-inducing problems, Yang Cheng's car had already returned to the villa in Dragon Garden. Chapter 344. Once he got out of the car, Yang Cheng opened the door with the key and walked into the living room in the blink of an eye. Although he said he would be home today, His sudden return startled the two women who were watching TV at home. However, Lin Ruoxi wasn't among them. Only Hui Lin and Mother Wang were resting at home. The two of them were watching Beijing opera, and Mother Wang was humming along with the tune with a smile. Seeing Yang Cheng barging in, Hui Lin was still fine, but Mother Wang, who was immersed in the drama, slapped her chest and scolded jokingly. "Young master, you're exaggerating too much. You're like Sun Wukong, wreaking havoc in heaven when you come home." Mother Wang's metaphor is so vivid. Yang Cheng sweated and looked around. Where's Ruoxi? She should have come back long ago. Isn't she still on holiday? Did she go to work again? Hui Lin saw Yang Cheng asking where Lin Ruoxi was the moment he arrived home and felt strange. He was talking about a divorce just now. How'd he become a good husband who misses his wife? Sister went to a small town to inspect a factory. I heard the workers are rebelling, Hui Lin said. Yang Cheng frowned. Factory? Rebelling? Mother Wang sighed. She left less than an hour ago. If you had come home earlier, you would have seen her. Yang Cheng faintly felt that something was wrong. Because Yulei International produced all kinds of products, there were many extensive factories under them. However, why would Lin Ruoxi, the CEO of the headquarters, go and inspect the lowest level of management? Mother Wang, tell me what happened in detail, Yang Cheng asked. Mother Wang nodded and told him the general situation. As it was nearing the Lunar New Year, a garment factory under Yulei International had a problem with unpaid wages. The factory's reason was that it lacked funds and had suffered losses this year, but the workers did not believe it. They began to surround the factory's director and some cadres, and even gave the local township cadres a headache. Most of these workers were migrant workers who came to Zhonghai to work. They wanted to take some money and go back to their hometown for the new year. There was only 1 month left, and they had not received more than half of their salary. Of course, the workers were not happy. Lin Ruoxi, the CEO of Yulei International, didn't have to deal with such an incident. However, the headquarters of Yulei International had already started their year-end holiday and vacation. The main people in charge of the HR and marketing departments weren't around, and some of them weren't qualified enough. In the end, the matter reached Lin Ruoxi's ears. Lin Ruoxi thought for a moment and decided to personally resolve the matter. Actually, Miss Chinny said that she wanted to go, but I don't know what happened to her. She said that she didn't want to stay at home all the time, so she fought to go, Mother Wang said helplessly. Don't want to stay at home? Yang Cheng smiled bitterly. She just didn't want to see him, so she wanted to avoid him. In addition, she didn't go to work these days, so she deliberately found something to leave the house and didn't want to see him. She didn't go alone, right? Yang Cheng asked. Who else could she go with? Miss said she could handle it, so the other managers in the company didn't dare to offend her, Mother Wang said. Yang Cheng was a little anxious. He was worried about Lin Ruoxi far more than he expected. He couldn't sit still at all. Going to the lowest level of the factory to face the anger of hundreds of low-level workers. How could a young woman like her handle this? He wasn't an intellectual who would reason with you. What he wanted was money. Other theories were useless without money. If it was so easy to solve, the local government leaders would have solved it long ago. Why would the headquarters send people over? Moreover, although Lin Ruoxi was very smart in business, her EQ was obviously very low. Otherwise, she wouldn't have a cold face all day long. She would let the public relations department handle all the social engagements, and she only had a few friends. It was harder than reaching the sky for her to solve this problem in front of a group of uncouth men, gangsters, and sly local officials. The more Yang Cheng thought about it, the more uneasy he became. He asked Mother Wang, "Which town did Ruoxi go to?" "Oh, Yuping Town. It's only an hour's drive from Zhonghai City, but the road is quite circuitous. There are many small villages, so it'll probably take 2 hours." Mother Wang said. Yang Cheng stood up and said, "I'm a little worried. I'll go and see what's going on." "Mother Wang, don't wait for me for dinner." "Brother Yang, why don't I go too? I'm worried about my sister too." Hui Lin's eyes were filled with worry. Yang Cheng thought for a while and shook his head. "I'm worried about Mother Wang at home alone. You should spend more time with her. Moreover, you're a girl too. You won't be a deterrent even if you go." Lin knew that what Yang Cheng said was the truth. She couldn't possibly point a sword at the workers and shout, "This heroine is here, don't rebel." Moreover, she didn't bring her sword with her, so she didn't say anything else. Yang Cheng's BMW had its own GPS navigation system. Naturally, Lin Ruoshi's car had it too. Therefore, Yang Cheng wasn't afraid that he couldn't find Lin Ruoshi. If he drove faster, he might be able to catch up with her. Before leaving, Yang Cheng asked for the name of the factory, Yuping Garment. After checking the address, he set off immediately. 20 minutes later, the car entered a provincial road in the suburbs. It was no longer a smooth highway. There were many forks on both sides of the road. It was difficult to go fast. There were often pedestrians and non-motorized vehicles passing by. Yang Cheng guessed that based on Lin Ruoshi's personality, she wouldn't dare to drive too fast. There was a high chance that he would catch up with her. However, Yang Cheng underestimated the fate between him and Sister Lin. After a quarter of an hour, Yang Cheng entered a village at the edge of Zhonghai. In front of a small private supermarket by the village road, Yang Cheng was shocked to see Lin Ruoshi's red Bentley parked there quietly. Yang Cheng parked the car in front of the supermarket. After he got out of the car, he looked around. He didn't see Lin Ruoshi. Just as he was about to walk into the supermarket to ask, he saw a tall woman wearing a beige British-style coat and a brown Gucci bag. Her hair was casually draped over her shoulders. She was talking on her phone as she walked out of the supermarket. Seeing the familiar cold beauty, Yang Cheng revealed a comforting smile and waved at Lin Ruoshi. Lin Ruoshi was talking to the person on the phone. Her brows were slightly furrowed. When she saw Yang Cheng suddenly appear in front of her, she almost forgot to speak. She was obviously stunned. A few seconds later, Lin Ruoshi hung up the phone and walked in front of Yang Cheng without saying a word. She stared at Yang Cheng as if she was studying something. Being stared at, Yang Cheng felt a little weak and smiled awkwardly. "Although I don't think I'm ugly, I'm not very handsome either. I'll be proud if you look at me like this." Lin Ruoshi ignored Yang Cheng's joke and asked coldly, "Who asked you to follow me?" "My wife, Ruoshi. How can I rest assured if you go to the village alone to deal with such a group of men?" Yang Cheng said truthfully, "Mr. Yang, please pay attention to your words. Who is your wife?" Lin Ruoshi's pretty face was like frost. Her eyes were like a knife that cut across Yang Cheng's face. "And whether I can deal with them or not, it's none of your business. We're just a contract couple. We don't interfere in each other's private affairs. We'll be divorced in a few months. You'd better stay away from me. I don't want to see you." Yang Cheng was embarrassed. He knew that he must have been cold-shouldered, but he wasn't angry. He asked directly, "Aren't you going to Yuping Town? Why did you stop here?" "It's none of your business. You can go back. I'll solve my own business." After Lin Ruoshi finished speaking, she turned around and walked back into the supermarket. Yang Cheng was helpless. He walked around the car and immediately found a problem. It turned out that one of the front tires of the Bentley had been punctured by a nail. This kind of thing was indeed inevitable on such a small road in the countryside. No wonder Lin Ruoshi couldn't move. Although the Bentley Elegance was not a super rare car, it was not something that could be repaired by any tire mender. What's more, this was a village. There might not even be a motorcycle tire mender, let alone a high-end car tire. Yang Cheng caught up and asked Lin Ruoshi, "Have you contacted the repair shop?" Although Lin Ruoshi didn't want to pay attention to Yang Cheng, she was not an unreasonable and crazy woman. So, when Yang Cheng asked seriously, she would answer. She said coldly, "We has already asked someone to come and load the car. What about yourself? Are you going to leave the car behind?" "I'll call someone to pick me up," Lin Ruoshi said coldly. "Who are you looking for? Aren't I right here?" Yang Cheng said, "I want to go to Yuping. I'll take you there. I'll be your assistant and also your bodyguard. You know I'm very good at fighting. Those people won't be able to get close to you." Yang Cheng winked at Lin Ruoshi. Lin Ruoshi hesitated. She didn't want to forgive Yang Cheng so quickly. She wanted to compromise with him and break the deadlock. However, she would be lying if she said she wasn't afraid of going to the low-level processing plant alone. In the face of nearly 1,000 workers, Lin Ruoshi was indeed worried that violence would happen. Even if Lin Ruoshi didn't think that Yang Cheng could be of much help, two people were still better than one. If it weren't for her assistant Wu Yu being on vacation, Lin Ruoshi would have definitely brought her along. You wanted to go? I didn't force you to go. Lin Ruoshi didn't want Yang Cheng to feel that she needed someone to accompany her, so she added. Yang Cheng secretly laughed in his heart. He was still holding onto his face, so he said, Yes, I'm going as a public official, not as a private person. General Lin, are you satisfied now? Lin Ruoshi knew that her little thoughts had been seen through. Her pretty face blushed, and she coldly snorted and turned her head to hide her embarrassment. But who knew that, just as she finished hiding it, Lin Ruoshi's stomach made a rumbling sound. Lin Ruoshi hurriedly covered her stomach with one hand. Her face was burning, and it was so red that juice could drip out. I'm going to die. Why did I have to continuously embarrass myself in front of this guy? Yang Cheng was also stunned. He immediately knew that Lin Ruoshi hadn't eaten lunch when she went out, so she was hungry now. Seeing her depressed look, he smiled and said, What's there to be shy about? Whether it's a president or a beauty, you're still a human. Humans have to eat. If you don't eat, your stomach will growl. This is the same logic as humans fart. Lin Ruoshi bit her lower lip and pretended not to hear anything, but she felt a little better in her heart. She had never been so embarrassed in front of a man since she was young. Her car had a flat tire, her face was exposed, and even her stomach was growling with hunger. This was too miserable. Yang Cheng didn't laugh at her. This kind of small matter in the eyes of ordinary people might be very troublesome for Lin Ruoshi, who had an extremely high self-esteem, especially in front of him. So he smiled lightly and said, Let's go into the supermarket and buy something to eat. Chapter 345. The supermarket in the small village was naturally not very big. From the beginning to the end, there were only 3 shelves. After looking around, apart from dried tofu and biscuits, only instant noodles were acceptable. He didn't know which manufacturer the beef jerky was from, but just looking at it made his heart ache, so he didn't plan on buying it. Yang Cheng directly pulled out a 100 yuan bill and bought 7 or 8 packets of instant noodles, as well as a few packets of dried tofu. He asked the owner of the small supermarket for a pot of hot water and borrowed 2 bowls. He then went to the window of the supermarket and sat next to Lin Ruoshi, intending to eat. Because Lin Ruoshi had Mother Wong to cook at home, she had never eaten instant noodles since she was a child, so she didn't interfere. She minded her own business and opened a packet of dried tofu, taking small bites. Even if her stomach was growling, her family upbringing didn't allow her to wolf it down. After Yang Cheng made a bowl of instant noodles, he made another bowl and put 2 pieces of bread in the second bowl. When Lin Ruoshi saw this, she hurriedly stopped him and said, 1 packet is enough for me. Why did you buy so much? Return it. Yang Cheng helplessly smiled and said, Old. Oh no, General Lin, 1 packet is enough for you. I have to eat several packets. You also want to eat? I also didn't eat lunch, so of course I have to eat. Yang Cheng said gloomily. Lin Ruoshi's hand that was holding the dried tofu stopped moving, and she was stunned on the spot. Yang Cheng must have only found out that she had come to Yuping Town when he got home, which was around lunchtime. She had left home for more than an hour, and he immediately rushed over. At this speed, he really didn't have time to eat when he got home. He was so worried about her that he didn't even have time to eat and rushed over. Lin Ruoshi only felt her heart go numb, and her charming face unconsciously became a bit hot. When Yang Cheng saw that Lin Ruoshi suddenly turned silent and didn't know what she was doing, he was puzzled. He was too lazy to think about it, so he just opened a packet of dried tofu, poured it all into the instant noodles, and ate it together with the noodles. When the noodles were ready, Lin Ruoshi ate while looking at Yang Cheng, who was fiercely eating and suddenly felt that this guy's rude manner of eating was not as unbearable as before. After a late lunch, the tow truck had arrived. Lin Ruoshi, after all, didn't know much about these things, so Yang Cheng timely went out to arrange a series of procedures. When Lin Ruoshi got into Yang Cheng's car and set off again, Lin Ruoshi finally realized how accurate Lin Ruoshi's words were. There has to be a man at home. There is still a long way to go to Yuping Town, and it would be good if they could get there in the evening. After all, It was rush hour, and many villagers were going home, so the traffic was not ordinary. Lin Ruashi looked at the dense pedestrians, bicycles, and battery-powered scooters on the road, and her scalp went numb. If she drove, wouldn't it be difficult to move? Looking at Yang Chung, who was calmly honking and moving forward, Lin Ruashi couldn't help but admire this guy who didn't have a driver's license. His driving skills were really first class. Of course, Yang Chung also noticed Lin Ruashi peeking at him from time to time. Seeing her careful and cute appearance, which she was afraid of being seen by him, Yang Chung couldn't help but smile and say, "Ruashi, let's reconcile." Lin Ruashi's delicate body trembled. When she received Yang Cheng's call in Hainan last time, she felt that Yang Chung was deliberately trying to be friendly with her, and then he kept calling her. Lin Ruashi also saw that Yang Chung seemed to have changed his mind and didn't want to separate from her. However, hearing him say that he wanted to reconcile with her so bluntly, Lin Ruashi was still confused and couldn't say anything. "I said some things before, and they might have hurt you. I know you hate me, and I also feel that I'm useless, always being influenced by other things. This time I went to Japan and experienced some things. I think it's better for us to reconcile. Let's not talk about divorce. It's so hurtful, isn't it?" Yang Chung looked at Lin Ruashi with hope, waiting for her to speak. Lin Ruashi only felt that her heart had jumped to her throat. After being silent for a long time, she cleared her throat, turned her head to look out the window, and said, "If you want a divorce, then I will divorce. If you want to reconcile, then I will reconcile. Am I a doll who listens to you? I have my own ideas. Besides, who is on good terms with you? Is there a need to reconcile?" Yang Cheng's words were about to come out of his mouth, but he was stunned. He sighed helplessly, knowing that things couldn't be rushed. He could only find a chance to talk to her next time. However, he didn't know that after Lin Ruashi said these words, she also regretted it in her heart. She was reserved as a woman, and it was also a matter of self-esteem. After all, if Yang Chung said that he wanted to reconcile, she would immediately listen and obediently become his wife. It would be too worthless. Lin Ruashi hoped that Yang Chung would beg her again, persuade her, even if it was just a sad look. But this unromantic guy, he actually pretended that nothing happened and continued to drive, not saying anything. Lin Ruashi almost went up to Yang Chung and gave him a few slaps. In the past, when she didn't need him to be mushy, he would call her dear baby, good wife, and Ruashi baby all day long. Now, at such a critical moment, this blockhead, he actually didn't say a single word more. Thinking of this, Lin Ruashi gritted her teeth in anger. She hated him to the bone. Reconcile? You go and reconcile with yourself. As Yang Chung was driving, he felt that Lin Ruashi's body seemed to be surging with a bone-chilling aura, as if her whole body had merged into the darkness. His heart trembled, and he thought to himself, did my words offend this CEO again? It couldn't be. Yang Chung was very distressed, and he didn't dare to mention anything about reconciling anymore. He didn't speak again the whole way. When they arrived at the Yuping garment factory in Yuping town, the sun had already set, and the cold wind was blowing. There weren't many people on the street. Although Yuping town was close to Zhonghai, because of the large foreign population, social security and average living standards weren't very good. Most of them were temporary residents or migrant workers. The local government's tax revenue was relatively abundant. After all, there were many factories, so there was still money. There wasn't much life in a place like this. It made people like Lin Ruashi, who was used to living in the city, a little nervous the moment they entered this area. When the car stopped at the entrance of Yuping Clothing on the opposite side of the road, the two of them saw that there were many tents set up by the wall at the entrance. Many men and women in tattered clothes were eating from porcelain bowls. They were even cooking their food on the road. Many banners were erected there, with all kinds of words like black-hearted factory, defaulting on wages, heartless, Yulei Corporation is a fraud, and so on. There were even some filthy words that cursed at Lin Ruashi herself. It was obvious that they were a group of workers who stayed outside the factory to ask for their wages. Seeing this scene, Lin Ruashi was so angry that her pretty face turned pale. Yang Qing knew that she must be feeling bad. Yulei was passed down to her by her grandmother, and it was a business empire that she had painstakingly built up. Now that it was being scolded and insulted like this, as the owner of Yulei, it was the same as sticking filthy words on Lin Ruashi's face. As long as the matter is properly resolved, they will take back these words. They are all uncultured people. They are just expressing their anger directly and have no intention of slandering anyone. Don't be too angry, comforted Yang Cheng. Lin Ruashi didn't reply. She took a few deep breaths and closed her eyes for a while. Then, she took out her phone and dialed a number. A man's voice came from the phone. He sounded a little confused. "Who is this?" "I'm Lin Ruashi." The person on the other end of the phone obviously didn't speak for a long time. Finally, with a flattering smile, he said, "So it's General Lin." He. What a surprise. May I know why General Lin is calling me personally? Wu Yangzhu, as the factory director of Yuping, are you trying to tell me that everything is fine now? Lin Ruashi said coldly. The man called Wu Yangzhu sighed bitterly. "General Lin, there's nothing I can do about this. No matter how much those workers make a fuss, I'm still a human being, not the god of fortune. If I had money, I would have distributed it long ago. But the factory really doesn't have any, whether we have money or not. It's not up to you to decide. Immediately bring the factory's main staff to see me." "I'll be outside the factory," said Lin Ruashi. "Lin, General Lin, you're outside the factory?" Wu Yangzhu was obviously stunned. Then he said, "I thought some department head would come down to help us solve this problem. I didn't expect General Lin to come down personally. How can I take responsibility for this? But, General Lin, if those workers see me now, they'll smash me to death with bricks. My car was smashed yesterday. General Lin, why don't you go to the Yuping Hotel in town? I'll wait for you there. I'll also call the other staff there. We can also have a meal there to welcome General Lin." Lin Ruashi sneered. "You can't distribute my salary, but you have the money to treat me to a meal. Wu Yangzhu, I don't need you to treat me to a meal. Just get the accountant to email all the accounts for this year to my mailbox at headquarters. You can skip the meal." "Don't, General Lin. It's rare for you to meet small workers like us. Do me the honor and discuss this matter in detail. I'll pay for the meal personally. It has nothing to do with the factory. Please give me some face, General Lin." Wu Yangzhu seemed to be wronged. Lin Ruashi knew that she was too heartless if she rejected him like this. After all, he was an employee under her company. So she agreed. "All right, but tell the accountant not to forget to send the accounts immediately." All right. I'll go right now. See you at the hotel later." Wu Yangzhu finally heaved a sigh of relief and agreed happily. Chapter 346. After asking a few passers-by in the center of Yuping town, Yang Cheng drove to the entrance of Yuping Hotel. Although it was called a hotel, it was actually just a 3-story corner restaurant with 2 big red lanterns hanging at the entrance. The vermilion carpet was already full of dirt. Because the farmer's market was right across the street, there was a fishy smell in the air. As soon as Lin Ruashi got out of the car, she felt a little nauseous. She frowned, but didn't say anything. She walked into the hotel with Yang Cheng. In the lobby of the hotel, Wu Yangzhu, the factory manager in a gray suit, was already standing at the stairs waiting. When he saw Lin Ruashi, he paused for a moment like most people before he showed a flattering smile. "Welcome, General Lin. It's a pity that our place is too small, and we don't have any good restaurants. We can only treat General Lin to a meal in this shabby shop. General Lin, please treat us." Wu Yangzhu saw Yang Cheng following behind Lin Ruashi, but he didn't pay much attention. He only thought that Yang Cheng was Lin Ruashi's assistant. He smiled at Yang Cheng in a slightly friendly manner. Lin Ruashi's mind was filled with the scene at the factory entrance. She was in a bad mood and didn't like Wu Yangzhu. She didn't say anything along the way and followed him to the largest private room on the second floor. There were already 4 men in formal clothes sitting inside. Wu Yangzhu introduced them one by one. They were the deputy factory manager, Qian Hao, the union president Wang Zhe, and the chief accountant Meng Fan. There was also a young man named Xiao Lu, who was Wu Yangzhu's assistant. These people looked quite rough, but they were probably born and raised here. Lin Ruashi wasn't too surprised and simply greeted them. When she introduced Yang Chung, she only said that he was her assistant and driver. The large table was very spacious for 6 people. Lin Ruoshi sat at the head of the table with Yang Chung and Wu Yangzhu beside her. "Accountant Meng, have you sent out the accounts?" Lin Ruoshi asked Meng Fan as soon as she sat down. Meng Fan was taken aback, seemingly not understanding what was going on. "It's the factory's account for this year. Didn't I call you just now? Did you forget?" Wu Yangzhu glared at Meng Fan with dissatisfaction. Meng Fan slapped his forehead and said embarrassedly, "I'm sorry, General Lin. I thought that you would come to our small place for an inspection, so I rushed over immediately. Don't worry, I'll send it to you immediately after dinner." Lin Ruoshi frowned again, but did not ask any more questions. "General Lin, although work is important, you still have to eat." Wu Yangzhu took out 2 brand-new bottles of Maodai from the counter in the private room. It was probably something he brought from his family. Otherwise, this kind of restaurant wouldn't sell it. Although Lin Ruoshi didn't like to drink, she would still drink a little. If she didn't give any face to these low-level employees of the factory, people would gossip about her. Thus, Lin Ruoshi did not stop him and let Wu Yangzhu fill her glass. Wu Yangzhu smiled and asked Yang Chung, "Assistant Yang, do you want a glass as well?" Yang Chung waved his hand and placed Lin Ruoshi's glass in front of him. "I'll drink General Lin's wine on her behalf. She still has to look at the accounts tonight and think of a way to deal with the factory's problems. Furthermore, General Lin doesn't like to drink, right, General Lin?" Lin Ruoshi never expected that Yang Chung would be so considerate to drink for her, but she did have a lot of things to deal with tonight. Thus, she nodded her head. "It won't be too late to drink after the factory's matters are settled. Let's have a simple meal today. You guys can also tell me about the factory situation." Wu Yangzhu awkwardly smiled. "All right, we'll drink next time." After the others had filled their glasses with Maotai, the 6 of them began to eat. Wu Yangzhu saw that Lin Ruoshi only ate a few mouthfuls and kept staring at him. Thus, he could only put down his chopsticks and said, "General Lin, you can't blame us for this matter. General Lin, you also know that the clothing industry has been sluggish these few years, especially for a garment factory like ours. Although we have business all year round, many of them can't even be recovered by the end of the year. In addition, in the past 2 years, Boss Lin, you have greatly expanded the workshop and created hundreds of new jobs. With more internal employees, we have to build a dormitory, a cafeteria, and 5 insurances and 1 housing fund. Our ULA International is a formal enterprise, and we can't just refuse to sign a labor contract. Once the contract is signed, a lot of money has to be paid, and we can't deny it. Most of the employees in our factory are women, and women from other places don't use contraception. Basically, there will be a few of them taking maternity leave every month. But the local government doesn't dare to do too much, as they are afraid of causing public resentment and being exposed on the internet. It will affect the government's image. Just like that, we spent a lot of money to feed a large group of people, but they didn't achieve much in the end. Furthermore, we didn't even recover half of the money, and we only got half a year's salary this year. We are really stretched. The bank still owed a loan, which was tens of millions of yuan. How could it be given out so easily? I wanted to tell those workers that we will slowly repay them when we return to the city next year, but they insisted that they don't have the money and won't go home. My car was smashed by them, and we're more innocent than anyone else." Wu Yangzhu kept complaining, and on the other side, Yang Chung was toasting with Wu Liangzhu's assistant, Xiao Lu. "It seems like your factory director is having a hard time." Yang Chung smacked his lips. He hadn't drunk authentic Maodai wine since he returned to the country, and the taste was indeed good. Xiao Lu's skin was a little dark, and his accent was that of a northerner. "That's right, these bastards, they only owe 20,000 yuan, and they're making such a ruckus. If they want to celebrate the new year, we have to as well." Yang Chung held back his laughter and nodded. "What you said makes sense." Xiao Lu laughed, then suddenly thought of something and asked, "Assistant Yang, how do you feel now?" "What do you mean?" Yang Chung asked with a smile. "Do you feel uncomfortable?" Xiao Lu said with a bit of a smile. Yang Chung rubbed his temples. "I feel that the alcohol content is a bit high. why do I feel dizzy and want to sleep? Hey, Assistant Yang, if you feel dizzy, you can sleep for a while, it's fine. Xiao Lu grinned with a proud look on his face. After listening to Wu Yangzhu's long speech, Lin Ruoshi's face was as cold as ice, and her gaze could freeze people into ice cubes. Wu Yangzhu, it seems like I don't even need to look at the accounts anymore. Do you think I'm a fool? Or do you really think you're so smart? These are all the normal expenses of the factory's operations. If they can't collect the remaining payment, aren't they afraid of being sued and forced to default? The development of the factory was planned by me at the beginning of the year, and it was over the budget. If this is all, there will be a deficit. Don't tell me that you used all the money I gave you to buy milk powder for the female workers' children. Lin Ruoshi sneered. Wu Yangzhu's face froze. All his words became pale and powerless under Lin Ruoshi's mocking gaze. At this moment, Wu Yangzhu's face lit up, and he pointed at Yang Cheng, who was next to Lin Ruoshi. General Lin, look, Assistant Yang doesn't seem to be feeling well. Lin Ruoshi was stunned. She turned her head and saw that Yang Cheng was actually lying on the table, asleep without a sound. Yang Cheng, what's wrong? Lin Ruoshi stretched out her hand and pushed Yang Cheng's arm. But Yang Cheng didn't react at all, as if he wasn't sleeping, but in a state of unconsciousness. Instinctively, Lin Ruoshi felt that something was wrong. She turned her head and looked at Wu Yangzhu again, and as expected, he had changed into a playful expression, as if he was looking at some diluted collection, and scrupulously sizing her up. Chapter 347. Wu Yangzhu's lustful gaze made Lin Ruoshi immediately understand what was going on. It was obvious that Yang Chun had been drugged. This was a trap that had been set long ago. Xiao Lu, who had just toasted with Yang Cheng, also walked to the door of the private room and stood guard there, blocking Lin Ruoshi's way. As for the other two vice directors and the union president, they also revealed a lustful expression that didn't match their job title, staring greedily at Lin Ruoshi's chest and pretty face. Brother, this girl is 2F** king beautiful. We can still play with such a beautiful girl before we leave. Will we be reluctant to leave in the future? Meng Fan licked his lips and laughed. Why don't we tie her up and run with us? Lin Ruoshi clenched her teeth and glared at them. They aren't the factory's cadres, are they? From the ugliness shown by these people, they obviously weren't intellectuals who could manage a large factory. No wonder when she asked Meng Fan if the accounts were issued, he didn't seem to understand at all. Turns out he was a fake chief accountant. You just realized? That's too late. Wu Yangzhu stood up, supported himself with one hand on the table, and ran his fingers through his hair with the other. Lin Ruoshi, you sent yourself to me. Originally, if you had just sent someone over, I probably would have left, but since you came personally, I won't be polite anymore. Lin Ruoshi's heart trembled. She pushed Yang Cheng, who was leaning next to her with all her might, hoping that Yang Cheng would wake up, but when she pushed hard, Yang Cheng directly fell to the ground and continued to sleep. It's no use, he's drugged. He'll sleep for at least an hour. You should have been the one lying down, but who knew that he would block the alcohol for you like an idiot? That's good too. It's a good thing if one of you falls. Seeing Wu Yangzhu approaching her, Lin Ruoshi stood up abruptly and took 2 steps back. She looked at him vigilantly. Wu Yangzhu, if you dare to do anything, I'll make sure you spend the rest of your life in prison. Haha, prison cell? Wu Yangzhu smiled evilly and said, when I'm done with you, I'll take my brothers abroad to have fun. When will it be your turn to catch me? So all the money was embezzled by you. Lin Ruoshi finally understood why she couldn't pay her salary and why so much profit had disappeared. It was Wu Yangzhu who wanted to escape the country with the money. Although he didn't know where he was going, as long as he got his way without anyone noticing, it would be very difficult to catch him again. What's more, Wu Yangzhu's escape was obviously premeditated. Perhaps he had already laid a foundation abroad. With such an escape, the chances of him being repatriated were very small. Wu Yangzhu snorted coldly. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have to take such a risk and run away with the money. All of this is because of you. Karma. Finally, you've fallen into my hands. Looking at Wu Yangzhu's gloomy eyes in front of her, Lin Ruoshi was finally a little scared. No matter how calm she was still a young woman. She rarely participated in social occasions. Facing such four vicious guys, Lin Ruashi's legs were a little weak. What did I do? Why do you hate me so much? Lin Ruashi really couldn't understand why Wu Liangzhu deliberately came to deal with her. Logically speaking, since he was ready to escape, he should have left earlier. Why did he stay when he heard that she was coming? Wu Liangzhu's eyes were full of the flames of revenge. He grinned and said, "Are you still pretending not to know? You think about it carefully. 3 years ago, how did you treat our family? 3 years ago?" Lin Ruashi thought for a moment and frowned. 3 years ago, I bought your family's Liangyu garment and changed it to Yuping garment under my yulei. But is that a reason for you to hate me so much? Bitch, what do you know? Wu Liangzhu roared. Do you know? Liangyu garment making was founded by a few brothers from my grandfather's generation who worked hard to build it. Ever since I was a child, I had watched my grandfather and my father work so hard for this factory that they became sick all over. The gravel road in the factory was built by my grandfather and the workers. The trees in the factory were planted by my father and I. Everything was the blood and sweat of my family. When my grandfather died, he specifically told me that I must guard this foundation well and not let anything happen to it. I've been working so hard to let this factory continue to be passed down, to be worthy of the hard work of my 2 generations of ancestors. 3 years ago, the economy was in a slump. I had no choice but to borrow a few million from the bank. I wanted to use the funds to continue developing. But you were the CEO of Yulei International. You actually used your connections with the local government leaders and colluded with the president of the bank to put pressure on me to repay the loan. You forced me to integrate the factory into Yulei's factory system. Only then would you stop. If Yulei wants to develop, why don't you build your own factory? Why do you have to swallow the blood and sweat of 3 generations of my family? Is your conscience eaten by a dog? Do you know that just because the government leaders want to curry favor with you, the mayor and the secretary of the party committee all came to my house and forced my father to integrate the factory into Yulei Group? Back then, my dad died of anger before the end of the year. Before he died, he told me not to make life difficult for you. He said that I can't win against you. That's right, I can't win against you. In this society, whoever has money is the boss. As long as Yulei wants to invest and expand, not to mention our small government officials, even the leaders of Zhonghai City have to give you face. But so what? You're just a beast who eats people without spitting out the bones. Wu Yangzhu's face turned red from the scolding. Then he smiled coldly and said, I was wrong. You're so beautiful. How can you be a beast? Now is also good. These 3 years, I try my best to hide most of the money I earned. This year's money is even worse. This money is enough for me to live happily abroad for the rest of my life. You made our Wu family lose face. Like a drowning dog, we can only crawl under your feet and work for you. In the end, you still have to fall into my hands. Hearing this, Lin Ruashi's thoughts calmed down. She looked a little sad. What you said is not what you think it is. Lin Ruashi said, I am sorry about your father's death. But, believe it or not, I decided to buy your family's factory. That year, I only thought that a small private factory like yours would be better off under Yulei and let us manage it. And if I built the factory myself, it would be a waste of resources and inefficient. And if it was built, your factory would still close down. I just wanted to invest as rationally as possible. I didn't expect that because of what I said, the leaders in the bank would treat you that way. That wasn't my intention. I didn't force them either. It was just that they were in the wrong, but I didn't know about it. That's all bullshit *T. At the end of the day, if it wasn't for you, why would those dog officials treat my family like that? Wu Yangzhu said fiercely. But you've seen the development of the factory in the past 2 years. According to the route I set, the number of employees in the factory has increased by more than 5 times. Originally, you could only earn a few million a year. Now, you can earn more than 100 million. And Yuping Clothing is already the biggest clothing factory in town. Isn't this what you owe to your ancestors? Lin Ruashi said. Wu Yangzhu laughed loudly. Are you really stupid or are you pretending to be? Yuping Clothing. What I want my grandpa, my dad, we want is Liangyu clothing. Liangyu clothing. That's what belongs to our family. What we want is our dignity, not your smelly machines and messy factories. Do you know how a son feels when he sees his own father kneeling in front of the bank president? You're a cold-blooded and heartless B*TCH who only knows how to expand and earn money. Do you understand? His words made Lin Ruashi's eyes widen, but she couldn't say a word. She didn't know how to refute such a ridiculous statement. Chapter 348. At this time, the three people who had been waiting by the side and coveting Lin Ruashi could not wait any longer. Big brother, what's there to say to this kind of big family miss? She doesn't even know fart. Let's just get on her and run. I can't wait any longer. Wang Zhe laughed sinisterly. Wu Yangzhu looked at Lin Ruashi, who had already retreated to the corner, and laughed contemptuously. Useless thing. Do you think she can still run away? If you guys want to do it, then do it. It doesn't matter if you guys do it together. I'll just watch here and see what kind of expression the rich and beautiful CEO will have when she gets F***ed by two hoodlums. Ha ha ha. Look, her legs are still so tight. Maybe she's still a virgin. That would be really profitable. I would be willing to live 10 years less. Seeing that Meng Fan and Wang Zhe were about to pounce on her, Lin Ruashi could no longer think about anything else. She looked left and right, and even considered whether she should jump out of the window. But this was the third floor. If she jumped, even if she didn't die, she would be half crippled. However, being crippled was still better than being defiled by these people. At this time, a voice came from behind Wu Yangzhu. Hey, you guys, if you want to curse, then curse. If you want to take the money, then scram. Why do you have to have thoughts about my woman? Aren't you trying to make me not be able to pretend to be asleep? The four people's attention was completely focused on the silent Lin Ruashi. When they heard the voice, they turned around in shock. They only saw that Yang Cheng, who was lying on the ground a moment ago, had slowly stood up. There was not the slightest trace of confusion on his face, as if he was completely fine. He was just muttering helplessly. You, how did you? Meng Fan pointed at Yang Cheng, unable to say anything. How did you wake up so quickly? Yang Cheng smiled faintly. The main reason is that the drug you guys bought has expired, so the effect is not obvious. Also, your acting skills are too bad. You guys look like hoodlums, not like cadres. Look at your faces. They're as tanned as those who set up stalls on the street. You don't look like you're an accountant in an office. Quick, capture him. Wu Yangzhu grew anxious and quickly directed the three of them to hold down Yang Cheng. Xiao Lu, who was guarding the door, also rushed up, wanting to knock down Yang Cheng. However, these people were naturally not Yang Cheng's cup of tea. After decisively knocking all of them unconscious, Yang Cheng slowly walked to the front of Lin Ruashi, whose face was covered in cold sweat. He reached out to pinch Lin Ruashi's already ice-cold hand and asked, You must be quite frightened, right? It's all right, I'm here. Only then did Lin Ruashi return to her senses. Although she was puzzled as to why Yang Cheng suddenly woke up, looking at the situation in front of her, she finally heaved a sigh of relief. It was as if she had taken a trip to the gates of hell. I'm fine. Lin Ruashi immediately withdrew her hand from Yang Cheng's palm and looked at Yang Cheng suspiciously. You didn't faint at all. You did it on purpose, didn't you? Since Lin Ruashi knew that Yang Cheng's background was extraordinary and his skills were extremely swift and fierce, she also wondered how Yang Cheng was easily drugged this time. At this moment, thinking about it, she estimated that she was also deceived by him. Yang Cheng touched the back of his head awkwardly. I just wanted to see what kind of medicine they were selling in the gourd. I thought they were very pitiful, and I wanted to let them go and let them spit out the money. But now, I think it's more practical for them to go to jail. While Yang Cheng was speaking, Wu Yangzhu, who saw that the situation was not right, had already quietly walked to the door and wanted to rush out. However, how would Yang Cheng let him have his way? With a dodge, Yang Cheng had already kicked him to the ground before Wu Yangzhu could react. Following that, he kicked Wu Yangzhu again. Although it was a skillful move, Wu Yangzhu still fainted from the kick. Seeing this guy's terrifying strength again, Lin Ruashi was not as surprised as the first time. Looking at the four unconscious guys on the ground, she sighed, Let them stay here. I'll call the police to deal with them. As for the legal matters, just leave it to Lawyer Zhang and Wu Yu. An hour later, the local police station's director took the depressed Wu Yangzhu and the other three away through the police report and began to contact the higher-ups to investigate Wu Yangzhu's crime of embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds. Wu Yangzhu was, after all, not a high-end criminal, and his criminal plan was quickly investigated. His escape route was actually a bit ridiculous. He just took a large sum of money and entered Myanmar from Yunnan province. In a country with military control, everything could be done with money. Moreover, he was not a government official, and the country would not negotiate for his repatriation. After all, it was Lin Ruoshi who personally called the police, and this was a big deal for the higher-ups in Yuping Town. After all, apart from Yuping Clothing, Yulei International had 3 to 4 other companies set up in Yuping Town, and the economic profits they brought were incomparably impressive. How could they dare to neglect this goddess of wealth? At around 8 o'clock at night, Lin Ruoshi finally saw the real key executives of Yuping Clothing. These people could be said to be crying and scolding the factory manager, Wu Yangzhu, for threatening them with force to keep these dirty deeds a secret. They also hoped that Lin Ruoshi would forgive them and allow them to continue working in the factory. However, Lin Ruoshi did not agree to it generously. Instead, she dismissed the key executives without saying a word and completely changed the management of the factory. Yang Qing also understood her intentions. After all, if these people did not even dare to show their faces and respond to such an important scandal in private, it was definitely not as simple as threatening them with force. There must be other personal reasons, and it was hard to guarantee that they would also get a share of the profits. Therefore, it was necessary to get rid of them directly. By the time everything was settled, it was almost 10 o'clock at night. The remaining follow-up work, including the reorganization of the factory and the payment of wages, were not something that could be done in a day or two. When Lin Ruoshi sat back in Yang Cheng's car, looking a little tired, Yang Cheng could easily sense that there was a thick, dark cloud surrounding her that could not be dispersed. "Are you going home?" And Lin Ruoshi responded softly, and then there was no more sound. She sat quietly in the passenger seat, like an ice sculpture, so cold that it seemed like she was not breathing. Because it was already night, the road was smooth. There were not many pedestrians and vehicles, which made Yang Cheng's driving speed become even faster. However, Lin Ruoshi did not ask Yang Cheng to slow down like before. Instead, she sat there without a sound. Yang Cheng looked at her and asked, "Are you still thinking about what Wu Yangzhu said just now?" It was not known if Lin Ruoshi did not hear it clearly, but she made an sound as if she admitted it and asked, "Do you know why I clearly heard him scolding you just now, but I didn't immediately get up and beat them up?" Yang Cheng asked, "Don't you think that person is pitiful?" Lin Ruoshi said casually. Yang Cheng smiled and did not deny it. He said to himself, "In fact, from Wu Yangzhu's point of view, he does have a reason to hate you. Our nation has been passed down for thousands of years in this world. Although many of the things that we regard as glorious traditions have been unknowingly worn away and slowly abandoned, there are still many deep-rooted innate qualities that are difficult to erase. For example, resettling the land and bringing honor to our ancestors. Many times when people from capitalist countries, such as the Americans, come to our country, they will feel that the people here are especially humane. This is because we have our own things that we scrupulously abide by, such as our family, our ancestral home, our hometown. These things are much less important in developed countries. Many people will not have a house of their own in their lifetime, let alone a factory like Wu Yangzhu's 3 generations. Some things are more valuable than money. So at that time, I felt that it was not a big deal for you to be scolded by him a few times. Of course, it was only measured by my values." Lin Ruoshi silently turned her head and glanced at Yang Cheng. In the dim car, the orange light of the BMW reflected on the man's familiar face. That ordinary face, in his calm narration, actually made her feel a little moved. Lin Ruoshi could not help but ask, "So what are you trying to say?" "Actually, it's not a big reason. Maybe because you're in a low mood and complicated, you didn't think of it for a while." "I think so. What you did indeed make Wu Yangzhu's family suffer for 3 generations. But at the same time, there will be countless families who will be grateful to you from the bottom of their hearts. Have you ever thought about those migrant workers who came from thousands of miles away to work? Those migrant workers' families. They don't have any cultural knowledge or connections. In this unfamiliar city, even in a small town at the edge of the city, they are a lonely group. This is not their hometown. There are no relatives, no home, and some people don't even have a legal identity. These people want to support themselves and even get married and have children. What they need is a job. And the original Wu family's factory does not have the ability to accept nearly 1,000 workers at once. Only when you take over that factory and lead it to grow, those people will have a stable job. You saw the situation of those people at the entrance of the factory. They dragged their families just to ask for half a year's salary. They just showed up and held a porcelain bowl to eat. They basically gave up their so-called dignity in the hope of getting a survival capital that belongs to them. For such a group of people, just the social security provided by the state is not enough. Because they are not people who know how to run a business. Only by providing stable jobs that can lead them to continue to develop is the best choice. And you are precisely that person. So what you did is a great and incomparable good deed. Although you let Wu Yangzhu's family down, your actions are worthy of them. Many thoughts flashed in Lin Ruoshi's eyes. Gradually, it became clearer. She chuckled, which was rare for her. Are you trying to enlighten me? Yang Cheng shrugged. I'm just expressing my opinion. After all, there are always good and bad people. It's impossible to cover everything. Nothing is absolute. As he said that, Yang Cheng immediately seized the opportunity and said with some anticipation, Darling Ruoshi, do you think what I said makes sense? I think it makes a lot of sense. For example, when I said that I wanted to separate from you last time, it must have been something wrong with my brain. It's the same as the pros and cons of your acquisition of the factory. Nothing is absolute. People can't be perfect. Just treat those words as farts and let it all go. How about we reconcile? Chapter 349. This time, when she heard Yang Cheng say that he wanted to reconcile, Lin Ruoshi didn't evade anything anymore. After all, Yang Cheng had mentioned it once before. However, Lin Ruoshi stared at Yang Cheng for a while and asked playfully, Is that so? Since you said that nothing is absolute and people will always make mistakes, then what if after I agree and you come to me again and say that you are afraid of watching me die? Do I have to listen to you saying that nothing is absolute again? How could that be? Nothing is absolute, you said it. Lin Ruoshi said innocently. Yang Cheng frowned and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Why did he feel that he had dug a pit for himself? Lin Ruoshi glared at Yang Cheng fiercely. Think carefully before you talk to me. I'm not trash that no one wants. You can pick me up and throw me away if you want. Even if you don't want a divorce, I may not agree. You have to think carefully about this. Yang Cheng looked bitter. No need. Dear, we are so familiar with each other. Even the address of our house is the same, and we live on the same floor. You are still so ruthless. That is my house. Lin Ruoshi said angrily, Nothing is absolute. Maybe one day when I am in a good mood, I will not be ruthless. Now I am ruthless. That is what you taught me. After Lin Ruoshi finished speaking, she turned her head and no longer paid attention to Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng frowned along the way. His mind was in a mess. Unknowingly, the car drove into downtown Zhonghai. When he saw the bright lights and tall buildings around, Yang Cheng came back to his senses. At his level, driving was just instinct. Even if he thought about other things, it was very safe. As the car drove past the business district, Yang Cheng suddenly thought of something. Although he had a car for dinner, he didn't manage to eat much before he fainted while acting with the four fellows. Until now, his stomach felt empty. Not to mention Lin Ruoshi, who didn't even eat a few mouthfuls of cold dishes. Looking at the time, it was already 10:30 at night. Many restaurants were open, but they were relatively deserted. Going home to eat was definitely not an option. Even if Mother Wong was willing, Yang Cheng was reluctant to let her get up and cook. Therefore, He drove the car directly into an underground parking lot. Seeing this, Lin Ruashi asked, "Why did you stop the car?" "Of course it's to eat. You didn't eat much. You can't go back to sleep hungry," Yang Chun said casually. Lin Ruashi did feel a little hungry, but she didn't think about eating with Yang Chun at night. She felt a little strange in her heart, but she didn't show it. Walking on the street, Yang Chun was looking for a restaurant slowly in front. He was looking carefully as if he was looking for expensive treasures. Lin Ruashi followed behind with a gloomy face. Compared with other couples walking side by side, the strange combination of the two was always incongruous. Moreover, because Lin Ruashi couldn't hide her graceful temperament, almost everyone who passed by would look at them in surprise. This made Lin Ruashi have the urge to go up and walk with Yang Chun. It was too awkward. "Hey, have you found a restaurant? Just find a random one." Lin Ruashi couldn't help but complain. Yang Chun stopped and turned around with a smile. "This is the first time I came to a formal restaurant with you alone. I have to choose carefully so that I can keep a good souvenir." Lin Ruashi was stunned. She didn't expect Yang Chun to say this. A formal restaurant? Lin Ruashi just remembered that it had been more than half a year since they first met. They didn't get along with each other all the time, but they still saw each other frequently. For such a long time, the two of them, who were legally husband and wife, actually didn't have a formal meal alone. If there was, it was only the time when Mother Wong was sick and Yang Chun took her to eat crayfish. But thinking about it, in such a small shop, Yang Chun didn't think it was a formal restaurant. As for the movie date, it wasn't a meal, but a cake. Yang Chun was also quite embarrassed. He blushed and said, "Actually, when I was looking for a restaurant just now, I thought about it. I don't seem to be a likable man. I think it's reasonable for you to be so fierce to me." As they spoke, Yang Chun saw a hangbang restaurant in front of them. The light and delicious dishes should be Lin Ruashi's favorite. There weren't many people in the restaurant, and it was relatively quiet. He didn't pay much attention to Lin Ruashi's expression and waved his hand. "Let's go to that one. Hurry up and go in before they close." The two of them were the last two customers in the restaurant, but the waiter still welcomed them with a smile. He let the two sit by the window and let them order. Yang Chun knew that Lin Ruashi didn't like to order, so he ordered Annie Song's fish soup, longjing prawns, gladiolas, and steamed pork with dried vegetables. Then, he asked the kitchen to make them first. Sitting at the table, facing each other, the two of them didn't know what to talk about. Lin Ruashi had always been a quiet person. She lowered her head and didn't say a word, but she didn't feel uncomfortable at all. But when Yang Chun was quiet, his mind was filled with all the past and the memories between the two of them. That night at the bar, the passionate kiss that was like glue, the night of lingering sorrow on the balcony of the cafe, the stubbornness of facing death and insisting that he marry her, the helplessness and tenacity in the face of his heartless father, the cuteness of lying on the hospital bed and secretly eating glutinous rice balls, the shyness of hiding when she bought books, coldness of spending a lot of money without fear when she stood up for her employees, the playfulness when she set a trap for him to get into work, and the decisiveness and coldness when she destroyed her opponent, and the gentleness and sweetness when she faced the children, and the heavy burden of his fate, the beautiful figure that struggled, hesitated, lonely, and closed herself off. Some people say that women are diamonds. You'll never know their true brilliance without polishing them. Yang Chun suddenly realized that his original thoughts were a bit ridiculous. Lin Ruashi was Lin Ruashi. She would never be another person in his mind. She was so unique, just like no diamond in the world would have the same pattern after polishing. She was so complicated that people couldn't understand it, but it also tortured him to not think about her. Perhaps even she didn't know that some feelings in the world had no source and only an ending. Unknowingly, while Yang Chun was thinking, the dishes that he ordered were served. Lin Ruashi picked up her chopsticks, picked up a small gladiolus, and put it in her mouth to chew. Seeing that Yang Chun had been silently looking at her, her delicate face slightly blushed. Fortunately, there were no people in the restaurant, so it wasn't too awkward. "What's wrong with you? Eat. Didn't you say you were hungry?" Lin Ruoshi was a little uncomfortable under his gaze, especially the strong emotions that were constantly surging in Yang Cheng's eyes, which made her feel uneasy. Was he making a decision? Yang Cheng took a deep breath and said in a heavy tone, Ruoshi, although I said that nothing is absolute, I think some things, even if not absolute, are already fixed in people's hearts. What do you mean? What kind of man do you think I am? Yang Cheng asked with a smile. I'm talking about you. Not the woman who lives in the same house, not the boss in the company, and not the woman who had some sex because of an accident. I'm just talking about a pure woman. What kind of man do you think I am? The chopsticks in Lin Ruoshi's hand trembled slightly, and she didn't hold them tightly, so they fell on the table. She looked at Yang Cheng's sincere eyes with a complicated expression, but she didn't say anything. Chapter 350. Yang Cheng saw that Lin Ruoshi didn't want to say it, so he laughed at himself. If you don't want to say it, then I'll say it myself. Yang Cheng pondered for a while, then slowly said it as if he was talking about someone unrelated to him. I lost my parents when I was a child. I don't know if they abandoned me or left me behind. In short, I don't have any family upbringing, nor do I have any background or bloodline. If I didn't have some experiences that ordinary people don't have, I would be as inconspicuous as a mouse in a ditch. Unlike you, who was born with a great-grandmother and was the CEO of a multinational company the moment you started working. I'm not good-looking, of course. I'm not ugly. But when I stand with a beauty like you, I'm like the outer stone shell on a raw jade that has been cut off. No one will notice me at all. As for my education level, let me tell you the truth. I've never been to school. My Harvard diploma was forced on me. You might not believe me, but I've never touched that thing before I joined the company. I heard that you skipped a grade when you were in school. I don't even know what that means. My ambition doesn't need to be mentioned. I don't have any ambition at all. If eating and waiting to die is an ambition, then I think I'm a little more noble. I still want to hug more beauties while eating. Compared to entrepreneurs like you, who bring jobs to thousands of people and boost the economy, I'm really a scum. Then I came to the question of my feelings. I'll tell you the truth. I did a lot of ridiculous things when I was abroad. On many occasions, I might have a few women in a day. On few occasions, I would have a lot of women around me. After returning to China, I wanted to settle down and sincerely wanted to find a woman to live with. But I didn't expect to meet you and some other women that I couldn't resist. I'm a very soft-hearted person, but I'm also very useless. I really won't refuse them. Although there are thousands of reasons, I think it's because I'm too selfish. I like each and every one of them, so I'm not willing to abandon any of them. In the past 6 months, I did things that many men would definitely despise and curse at. I have a wife like you by my side, but I still go and fool around with other women. This definitely wasn't because of my physical needs. I wasn't the kind of person who couldn't control my thirst. It was simply because I was promiscuous and shameful. I really have a lot of shortcomings. I don't have money, and my salary is paid by you. I don't have a car or a house. My car and house were given to me by you. In addition, I was always thinking about slacking off. Maybe it was because I was too busy in the past, but now I always wanted to rest and play games. I was unwilling to do anything serious. What's more likely to make you feel shameless is that I don't think my life is bad. This is how I live my life. I don't harm others. Occasionally, if you want me to do something, I'll definitely do it for you. But for me, I'm too lazy to move. At this point, Yang Cheng paused and sorted out his thoughts before continuing. If you want to talk about my strengths, I don't think it's necessary. Fighting and whatnot. Even if it's a strength, it can scare people to death. My cigarettes are very cheap, only 2 yuan a pack. I don't smoke them often, and it's even cheaper when I drink alcohol. I'm not addicted. As for gambling, even if I gamble, I'll definitely win money, but I'm not interested. Yang Chun thought hard for a while, but couldn't think of anything else at the moment. Smiling bitterly, he said, "That's about it. It sounds like I'm rotten to the core, don't you think? Sometimes I feel like I'm F***king SH**T. Why do people in their 20s live so lifelessly? Every time I see you working so hard, I feel like we're in a different world. Enough." Lin Ruoshi abruptly stood up and picked up her handbag. Her almond-shaped eyes glared at Yang Chun, as if a cold wind had blown past. Her eyes were slightly red, and she clenched her teeth as if she wanted to glare at Yang Chun. Due to anger and agitation, Lin Ruoshi's hands trembled slightly. Yang Chun, you said so much about yourself. Aren't you trying to tell me that you and I are two completely different people? That it's definitely a mistake for me to be with you? You don't have to explain so much to me. Since you've already thought it through, and you're such a rotten man, then I won't judge you anymore. You're right. Nothing is absolute, but there are some things that we've already decided in our hearts. We're not suitable for each other, so we should leave. You don't have to be so long-winded. You know I'm very busy, and I don't have time to talk about these crooked ways with you. After saying that, Lin Ruoshi turned around angrily and was about to leave the restaurant. But the moment she left, she couldn't help but cry. It was filled with all kinds of speculations and expectations. After experiencing all kinds of uneasiness, joy, and loss today, it was still the same result. Since they were going to say goodbye in the end, why did they come looking for her? Lin Ruoshi quickly walked out of the restaurant and came to the street. She tried to stop her tears, but she couldn't wipe them off no matter how hard she tried. Under the curtain of the night, the lights on the street were like raindrops, and the north wind was bleak. People were coming and going, and cars would fly past her from time to time. People almost couldn't help but look at this extremely beautiful woman who couldn't stop crying, but no one would suddenly go up to comfort her. It was a sense of distance. Although it was pitiful, it was daunting. Lin Ruoshi gave up on wiping her tears. Ever since she was young, she had almost forgotten how to cry. But after meeting this person, she always cried in her heart, and tears fell from her eyes. But in the end, it was like trying to fish the moon out of the water. However, just when Lin Ruoshi was planning to go far away from this person and find a secluded corner to cry by herself, Yang Chun suddenly rushed out. Looking at the figure that was about to go far away, Yang Chun took a deep breath and suddenly shouted, "Lin Ruoshi, it's such a rotten man. Me in another world with you. This kind of me. Can I like you?" On the street, it was as though everyone's ears were occupied by this sudden and strange confession. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. Lin Ruoshi's tears fluttered in the wind. Her entire body seemed to be frozen in place, turning into a wooden figure. Standing on the street, she couldn't move an inch. Lin Ruoshi didn't turn around. Although the street was still noisy, she could hear the man's voice approaching her. It was so vigorous, so powerful. Two arms slowly wrapped around Lin Ruoshi's shoulders from behind, hugging her entire upper body tightly. It was as though the two of them were fusing into one. Lin Ruoshi was still crying. She felt that she had already lost all her face tonight. But how could she not cry? The blazing heat behind them, the familiar scent of the man, and they could hear each other's surging heartbeat. At this moment, the entire world only belonged to the two of them. Suddenly, sparse applause came from the surroundings, and there were a few whistles and cheers of praise. Following that, more people began to laugh and applaud. The entire street was filled with enthusiastic applause, as though it was in a theater. Don't hug me. Everyone is laughing at us. Then tell me, can I like you? How can you ask someone a question like that? I won't let go if you don't tell me. Lin Ruoshi bit her cherry lips and lowered her head. Her eyes were like spring water, and she let out an almost inaudible end sound. What? I can't hear you. Yang Chun pretended to say. Lin Ruoshi pouted. If you do this again, I'm going to get angry. Yang Chun smiled helplessly and let go of his hand. He turned Lin Ruoshi around and rubbed his hands on her soft face. Got it. Why are you still so shy after such an old couple? Let's go home, wifey. As he spoke, Yang Chun held Lin Ruoshi's hand and walked toward the garage. Ah, but you haven't eaten yet, Lin Ruoshi hurriedly said. Yang Chun waved his hand. I'm full just by hugging you. Why would I need to eat? What about me? I'll cook for you when we get back. Lin Ruoshi pouted and held back her laughter. Under the cheers of a group of passers-by, she quickly walked to the garage with Yang Chun. One of her hands was tightly held by Yang Chun. For the first time, Lin Ruoshi didn't want to let go.